Welcome back, everyone. We are here at the driving range at the 2025 KPMG Women's PGA Championship. I'm PGA of America golf professional Ryan Adams, here to break down a few swings before players tee off. Nelly Korda just arrived. There's a huge gallery behind her. We're super excited to give you some analysis of that. Fellow PGA of America golf professional Abby Parsons will be joining me here in a little bit. And yeah, we're going to be giving you some great analysis. If you have some questions about any of the players' swings or coaching tips that you need from us, we're happy to help with that too. So looking forward to a great session. We're going to bounce over to Nelly Korda right now, and you know, looking at her swing from over here, looks like she's just getting dialed in with a few wedges. A huge gallery behind her, so you want to make sure to get out here if you're in the local Frisco area and catch Nelly, because I'm feeling that she's going to have a great day. And as we kind of look at her swing a little bit more in depth here, she's doing a similar, looks like a similar warm-up to yesterday, starting with some shorter clubs, wedges. She's got that alignment stick down, which is always so crucial to get your feels down. And I think it's important to make sure that when you're out on the range, you're starting out with fundamentals, right? Alignment, posture, grip, stance. Making sure that everything is dialed in before you head out to the course, right? And so Nelly's doing that really nicely with her alignment. Nelly's coach, Jamie Mulligan, not here at the moment, but he's always got her dialed in as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Nelly Korda does today. Easily one of the highlight bigger names coming out this morning here at Fields Ranch East. And so I'm really excited to see where she goes. You may notice she's doing a little bit of a takeaway drill here. It's important to make sure that you got that takeaway dialed in before maybe not the best swing there, but that's okay. Looks like she's having a few laughs, so that's always good. Yeah, it's important to make sure that your takeaway is always looking good, and Nelly's got one of the best takeaways in all of golf, and so we'll kind of watch her warm up here a little bit to make sure that it's got a nice view of her grip. And I think one of the things I've always enjoyed about Nelly's swing is it's a very repeatable motion. There's not a lot of wasted effort, and you can see that in her follow through there. She's not really moving too far left or right, side to side, and that's really important for those people at home to make sure that you're not really wasting motion, right? Nelly does a great job of turning back to her right heel, making sure that she's got a good takeaway. Hand is in, club is out. That makes it easier to be on plane. And then a good follow through, right? A good finish. It's really important to make sure that you're finishing at the target, right? And making sure that your belly button or your belt buckle is pointed right at the target. And she looks like she has a T down there just to the right. I don't know if she's using that for some sort of alignment aid, but she's got the alignment stick there. So for those of you at home that might be struggling with alignment, that's a good tool to use, to whether it's on the range or at home or whatever, just to work on your alignment. So taking a look at a little bit of her footwork here, and it's always fun to watch a swing like Nelly Korda, and making sure that we have our eyes out here on the best players is kind of one of the fun parts of this job today. Is we have Nelly Korda going out here. We have we'll have some other players. Gino Thitikul is coming at some point. And she's leading, looking for her first major title. But Nelly is didn't have the best of rounds yesterday. It was a longer day for her in the Texas heat. But I anticipate that she's won a couple majors now, and she's probably on the hunt looking for a low round today. So starting out with some lower clubs, some wedges, some shorter irons, and just trying to get things dialed in here. So let's take a look at one of these swings. Yep, very nice. And you can see there, full finish, no real wasted motion. And what I love about Nelly's swing is she's always got that chin tucked underneath her left shoulder. And I think that's something a lot of golfers don't do, right? They tend to not get a full turn out of their backswing. They actually more so tend to not turn all the way, or turn too much, or not find the right amount of turn. You can see that Nike logo on her back was pointed directly at her target, and then now her belt buckle is facing the target, right? So that if you think about that at home, that's a full turn and that's a full finish. So that's something that you can learn a lot from Nelly Korda today as we watch her warm-up period on the driving range ahead of her round. And just, it's good to have people around you too that you can see she's trying to keep things light with her caddy and coach. It's one of Jamie Mulligan's assistants from Virginia Country Club, so out in Southern California. So she's got a good team around her, and I think that's the most important part of trying to play better golf and compete in majors, is having a good group around you, and I know Jamie's a big proponent of that, so it's not surprising to see Nelly kind of chopping it up a little bit before a round, and I actually like that because she's pretty serious and, you know, kind of a little bit of a self-admitted perfectionist, so it's nice to see her kind of with a couple smiles before she goes out and tees off here out at Fields Ranch East. And yeah, just working through the bag now, and you'll notice like her grip is, we'll call that fairly neutral. It's not too strong, not too weak. Strong meaning you see more of that glove logo, that Nike logo, and weak meaning you see less of it. Neutral meaning that your glove logo is pointed directly at your target, and then when you come back to impact from where you're at address, you should be hitting right where you were at address, right? So a neutral grip can really help keep away some of the tendencies people might have with a slice if they have a weaker grip, or a hook with a stronger grip. So I will say though that, you know, as a PGA coach myself, it's important to make sure that you're not doing a grip that doesn't feel comfortable to you. Always work with your PGA coach to make sure that the grip is something that you feel comfortable with, because it's the only connector to your golf club, right? So you don't want to really do too much or do too little that's not familiar to you. So grip is really important, but it's also something that should be unique to you. So hit a little bit of a bigger swing here, which is nice to see. At some point, she's got to work up the bag, and she looks like she has a fairway wood coming up next. So, you know, it's interesting because I know Nelly had an amazing season last year, and I'm sure, you know, where she's sitting right now isn't exactly probably where she wants to be, but she also knows, like, I'm one of the best players in the world. I know exactly what I need to do, right? And so it's important to make sure that it's a good lesson for those at home, right? Is not every year, not every round is going to be perfect when it comes to golf. And so making sure that you got the right frame of mind before you go is always important. And now she's getting into a little bit of a longer club here. Yeah, we got our first question coming in. As we watch Nelly warm up here. Got the takeaway going here, which is nice. Yep, you can see her working on that. What are some tips for hitting shots both into the wind and downwind? Well, it's a great question, and you know, today a lot of people are going to face both of those types of shots, right? Going into the wind and then downwind too. So it's important to make sure that, you know, we have the right frame of mind for that. And I think when it comes to going downwind, you don't want to swing too hard because the wind is behind you, and it's important to make sure that you're not over swinging and overpowering the golf ball, right? Because if you swing too hard, you might get out of sync, you might get out of tempo, and the same thing goes for hitting into the wind, right? It's important to make sure that, you know, yesterday, Abby, my co-coach here, talked about when it's windy or when it's breezy, swing easy, right? And so when you think about that applies to both into the wind and downwind, and it's really important to make sure that you're swinging in good tempo and not swinging too hard, right? You can use that downwind to try and help a little bit with the swing and hit a little bit further. You might be thinking, well, if I'm going downwind, I don't have to hit the ball as far. That's right. So maybe you take one less club, but it doesn't necessarily mean you swing harder, right? You kind of let the wind carry the ball, and then the exact opposite goes for when you're into the wind, right? Is you take one more club and swing at just as easy, and tempo is always super important when you're going downwind or into the wind. So it's a great question. We'll go back to watching Nelly Korda here. Just nice to see her coach kind of just making sure everything's checked up right. Getting all the different angles. Going through to a hybrid now, it looks like. Now pulling out the fairway wood. And it wouldn't shock me if we saw a lot of fairway woods today from Nelly out on the course, just trying to keep the ball lower, trying to make sure that she's got some sort of a fairway finder, because it's going to be really important to find the fairway out on Fields Ranch East. And so she's probably just trying to dial in a little bit of a shot shape that's familiar to her. Something that is a little bit lower, because she's right now on the range. We probably have a steady 20 mile an hour into the player breeze, and so depending on where she is, not the best follow through there, but that's okay. Just maybe trying to try something out, and that's an interesting thing you just saw there. Is not every shot's going to be perfect, right? So even for Nelly Korda, she also hits bad shots, which is hard to believe, but. They do happen, so you just kind of get back off the mat and off you go to the next shot. And so we'll see if we... Yeah, that one was a little bit better. A nice turn, good takeaway, not really too rushed coming down. Really important to make sure that we're never too rushed with the tempo. So. Yeah, let's just take a moment here just to kind of watch her set up, and this takeaway drill or feeling that she's doing. It's a good thing that you can do on the range if you're practicing and trying to focus more on your backswing, is making sure you have a check, or your hands are checked, and making sure that they're in a good spot. So you might see her do it again here, just a little bit of it. Yep. So the club head is outside of her hands are more in towards her right leg, and then she's able to take that up straight and on plane, and then come back down with her lower body leading, and hopefully hit a center shot, or center of the club face shot. Yeah, and it's extremely windy here, so it's really important to make sure that you're dialing in a little bit of a lower flighted shot, and it looks like Nelly's kind of working on that now. As we move into driver, which is always fun to watch with Nelly Korda. And I'm pleased now to be joined by my fellow PGA of America golf professional, Abby Parsons. Abby, thanks for coming by.
Oh my gosh, of course, and I'm always happy to walk up here, and the first swing I'm seeing is Nelly Korda with a driver, so I can't really complain. Just now getting to the range, though, I know you just mentioned it, but the wind is still going. I know it's a common thing in Texas, so I'm sure these ladies have been preparing the best they can for this, but I definitely saw the wind a little bit more in play yesterday than compared to round one, so it'll be good to see these players work on flatting their drivers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you might not be able to see it behind the stack of balls she has, but she did this yesterday. She's just teeing the ball a little bit lower, and we talked about on Thursday how high you should tee the ball up above the driver, and I recommended a half a ball above, but today for her, she's probably teeing it maybe a quarter above the club face, maybe even with the top of the club face, just to keep the ball lower when it comes off of impact, just to kind of keep it below the wind so it doesn't get so spinny. So.
Yeah, her setup, too, this is prime posture you want in any golf swing here. So not only with driver, but her spine angle at address, her arms at address. You can see her arms look like they're just falling off of her shoulders. There's no added tension. She has no curvature in her back as well. I think that's something very important to get in front of a mirror, pretend like you're set up over the ball, and see, okay, what's my back doing? Am I having that inverted C? Am I a little bit hunched over? She has a perfect posture at address. Her feet are good, just past shoulder width apart with her driver. I mentioned this yesterday when we were doing these live look-ins on the driving range as well. An easy tip to remember if you're just now getting into golf is the further away you are from the green, the further apart your feet will be. So when she has driver in hand, she's as far away from the green as she can be on the golf course, obviously. So she's going to have a wide base. You'll see if she has a wedge in her hand, she's going to be a lot closer to the green. Her feet are going to be a lot closer together. So depending on the length of the club, it's an easy tip to remember when setting up for each different club.
Yeah, and it looks like she's kind of talking about like how the ball is flying here, and you can see her kind of like how it's kind of raising up, and she must be looking at the top tracer range board that's right next to us, and kind of probably having a little bit of a chuckle about like how the ball is going into the wind, and like it's going to be an interesting day out there, you know, if this is the way the ball's flying. So, but she's one of the more powerful players out here on the range, so I don't anticipate that her distance will be too affected by the wind, and you know, teeing it a little bit lower will help her with that lower flight. So, you know, for her today, she has to. I talked about this earlier. Climb up the leaderboard a little bit. So I wouldn't also be surprised to see this club out quite a bit, trying to attack some of the holes and attack some of the fairways and get in a position to make some birdies and climb up the leaderboard.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget that our comment section is open below. Ask any questions you have about any of these golf swings that we're looking into. And then if you have any questions about your own golf game, we are happy to help answer those as well. Now, if your question is, how can my swing look like Nelly Korda's, that's going to be a little bit more difficult because not all of us are lucky to be as talented as she is. But she's a great swing to watch, not only for her setup, like I just mentioned, but her tempo, her fundamentals, her grip is perfectly neutral as well. And just as I mentioned earlier, as she's switching from driver to wedge, look how much closer together her feet are. She's not even doing a full swing either. So you have to remember, when you're doing an abbreviated swing or doing a shorter swing, put those feet closer together. She's going to have a little bit more weight loaded on her front foot with these shots, and she's going to keep that weight there the whole time. So she's not doing a full swing or a full move. She doesn't have time to transfer her weight. She doesn't have time to rotate as much as she does with a full swing. So she's going to stay a lot more over the ball. Her weight's barely going to transfer, but it's going to start heavily on that front foot there. So if you have any questions about what she's working on as she goes to wedges after driver, which Ryan and I both love, we love seeing players go from pounding drives to hitting some wedges before they head out into the golf course.
Yeah, and wedges are, when you're playing into the wind or downwind, they're actually one of the hardest things to control, right? Because wedges tend to go a little bit higher, you know, higher loft. You're trying to come into the green from high above and attack some pins. So I'm curious, she looks like she's trying to kind of hit some higher shots with that fuller finish, but I wouldn't be surprised too if we maybe see some lower abbreviated follow-throughs here with the wedges, just trying to come in a little bit lower. A lot of these greens at Fields Ranch East are raised, and they have trouble around the greens, right? There's either, you know, the Bermuda grass is very sticky and it's short, and it's, you know, short and long of these greens. And so being on the green is a lot easier to get pars and birdies than being around them. So don't be surprised if she kind of tries a few different shots here with your wedges.
Yeah, I think she's definitely working on those higher shots right now just to see if she can get those out on the golf course to hold these greens. As the wind continues to dry up, these greens are going to be a little bit more firm and difficult to hold. So definitely the flatted wedges are going to be needed, and those high shots as well. This course asks a lot out of these players. But Nelly's leaving the driving range now, probably going to work on some putting before she heads out there to get dialed in, ready for the third round. And we're going to transfer over to Maya Stark, who just won the Women's U.S. Open Championship. I mean, it's great to see her make the cut and continue it going, but Maya Stark is definitely a player to watch always, especially after what she did at the U.S. Open. I think she's fun to watch too. We watched her on the driving range yesterday. She's a great player, great fundamentals, and a really great golf swing as well.
Yeah, and you see there she's talking to a gentleman there, and that's Joe Hallett, her PGA coach. He's a PGA Teacher and Coach of the Year, and one of the ultimate good guys in the game, and a great presence for Maya right before she goes and tees off in this kind of tricky conditions out here. And I'm sure for Maya it's a similar challenge to the U.S. Open, right, where it's going to be very difficult conditions. The scores are not very far under par, and that's kind of how what she was faced with at Erin Hills for the U.S. Women's Open. And so wouldn't be surprised to see her kind of climb up the leaderboard a little bit, but also be comfortable in these conditions. She's from Europe, where a little bit more of the ground game is in effect, and trying to flight balls through the wind and playing in the wind in general. So I think she's got a good chance to shoot a good score today. Although it's going to be tricky for everyone out here.
Gotta love the one-handed finish, you know. We've all been there.
Joe's like, let's work on something here with that. We don't like to see the one-handed finish, but you know, just working through a few things, right? And it's okay to see that. And you know, like we were saying with Nelly, who also had one of those bad swings. Not every shot is perfect, so she gets right back up, and we'll probably hit a good one here. So.
Yeah, and one thing to note about Joe Hallett, her PGA coach, he's also the coach of Lexi Thompson, who is right there. She is in contention for this major championship, so he's got two great players he's working with this week. Awesome to see the star power that a PGA coach can work with. But just goes to show, too, with that one-handed finish, that not everyone's perfect. Even the best players in the world hit some bad shots. They're not out here chasing perfection. They're just out here to chase better, to just play with what they have, too, and go out there. I have to say, every day we've been out here, the wind has gotten progressively stronger. So I'm sure the players here are noticing that as well and going to put that into consideration when they're practicing. But one thing we talked about, too, is her dynamic with her PGA coach as well. They are always smiling. They're always laughing. They're always having a good time together. You know, there's a little fist bump there. He's always smiling, too. He's known for his dad jokes, which is great. We love a PGA coach that can also joke with their players along the way. Keep it lighthearted. It's a major championship, but you're still out here to have fun, which is great to see. And she's jumping to, looks like a wood right now, maybe a hybrid. Going to be hitting a lot of those out there.
Yeah, and Joe just doing a few checkups here on her swing, and you know, making sure everything looks good as far as alignment and posture and balance, and those three things are going to be super important into the win, especially balance, right? So I like Maya's stance. It's very stable. It's very centered. There's not a lot of wayward, you know, outward movement. She's right over the top of the golf ball, right? And I think Joe's kind of trying to tell her that and try to remember to focus on that. Like, this is, focus on those fundamentals, right? Like he was saying the other day that, like, you know, we don't cram for a major championship exam on Wednesday. So she's going back to all the things that they've talked about previously, not just this week, and making sure that those are in effect today out on Fields Ranch East.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one important thing, too, to note is the par fives out there. Not only is this wind going to make it play a little bit more difficult, but these par fives are long. Not everybody can reach any of them. I know one of them's 9 is reachable, but all the other ones are pretty lengthy out there. So having this in hand for a layup, don't be surprised if you see a lot of those out there. But you can see she has a wide base with this fairway wood. She's got a great lower body motion. You can see her belly button points back and her belly button points through. One thing to note, we do mention obviously her full turn on the way through a lot. She finishes with her belly button to the target. But you need to notice how much it rotates on the way back. You know, if you don't rotate it well on the way back, it's not going to rotate well on the way through. So you got to make sure you have that nice rotation with your lower body. Now when you do that, you just have to make sure you're not swaying away from the ball. When I first tell a student, okay, get your belly button pointing to me if I'm standing behind them, and then pointing to the target. Usually their first try is they move their whole body away from the golf ball, trying to get their belly button to me, and I'm like, I really like the effort, obviously, but just making sure we're doing it properly. And she's doing that here. Her spine is staying over the ball as she takes the club back, but still getting that great rotation, or that great coil rather, with her body, because obviously the upper body and lower body don't move at the same time in the golf swing. If I see that, it's kind of like the equivalent of hitting a bunt. If you move your upper body and lower body together, there needs to be that slight separation of the upper body initiating the backswing and the lower body following. And then with the downswing, the lower body is going to initiate that downswing with the upper body following. That's why I kind of refer to it as a coil rather than just her full body rotating together. Because like I said, you're going to lose power with that, and your timing is going to be a little bit mixed up. So be sure to look at her sequence. It's perfect with her upper body starting the backswing.
Yeah, no, and I think she must have just popped one there because Joe Howell did a little flex on motion, and yeah, and you know, it's as she kind of goes through her warm up here, it's interesting how different players have different warm ups, right? Like we just saw, lost a little bit of a glove or something there, but
snacks. That's a priority there. You got a Ziploc bag with some snacks.
Yeah, it's windy out there, so you gotta step on it before it blows away. But yeah, we saw Nelly Korda wasn't here for that long, maybe 20 minutes tops, 25 minutes, and then off she goes to to wherever she's at next in her warm-up routine, and Maya's here a little bit longer, right? And so now she's moving to driver, and you know, everyone has a different warm-up routine. I think, you know, it's important to remember that you should have a warm-up routine. You don't just go straight from your car to the first tee, right? Because you want to make sure that you're dialed in and you're stretched out, you have everything kind of ready to go before you go to the first tee. And so watching these players today, you'll kind of see their warm-up routines, and it's maybe take down some notes and just, you know, what are they doing that I can implement into my game too.
Yeah, one thing, I think you might have mentioned this, they are not starting with driver. You won't see any of these players starting with driver. We don't start with big, powerful swings. We got to get the body warmed up. You're going to see them start with wedges. You're going to see them start with almost chip shots even on the driving range here. But it is very important. We were lucky enough to see even the warm-up routine of Lydia Ko yesterday. She had a lot of body motions, a lot of stretches, activating a lot of her lower body as well with different resistance bands and whatnot. And these players take it very seriously and take their warm-up routines very seriously, just so they can even be ready to not only take on the driving range, but take on the golf course as well. Got to be in tune with your body there. But you can tell that they're taking a look at our Jumbotron with the top tracer technology. They like to see their ball flights right now, especially with this heavy winds that they're experiencing on the driving range. It's going to be harder to keep that driver flight down today with this wind. So I'm sure they're taking a look at a lot of these floaters, but they're so good. They're going to be able to flight these down the best they can, and you can see how powerful her swing is. She admires. She's not super happy with that one either.
Looks like she kind of went after that one.
Exactly.
Just maybe trying to, how far can I go down the range, sort of thing. Maybe Joe's testing her a little bit, like how far can we get one out there, you know, because some of these holes are going to play fairly long into the wind. Par 4s are going to be longer, par 5s are going to be longer. Based on kind of how the wind is right now, the wind is going to be into her off of that first tee. So probably maybe trying to just kind of step on one a little bit, but not swinging out of tempo, right? Like she's using the ground to get more power. She's not swinging faster, right? You can see how she finished really nice there with her belt buckle pointer as her target, and cleared out that lower body. She's not like rushing back right off of the takeaway, right? She's taking her time and then loading up and then firing through to get kind of cut through that wind and get as much distance as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like she's switching gears to a shorter club. Again, we love to see this. It can be kind of difficult to have your last swing with driver, because driver is such a big and powerful swing, and it's the only club that we really hit up on the ball. They're going to be hitting a lot more of these clubs than drivers. So it's good to see her, along with other players, bring their swing back down to earth, kind of bring their tempo back down to earth after hitting a bunch of drivers. Looks like, yeah, her and Joe are working on these shots. I'm assuming she might be wrapping up soon. I'm not too sure. Usually the driver kind of leads to the end of the warm-up session, depending on the player.
But this is I love this, like, kind of like this environment, right? Like, she's about to go play in a major championship and she's laughing, and I think that's part of what a PGA coach can do for you, right? Is like keeping things light and keeping things enjoyable, right? Golf is supposed to be fun, even for these players that are competing for a major championship. Like, they're having fun out there. It might get a little tricky out, you know, at some point out there with the conditions, but it's important to just stay balanced and stay in the moment. And I think Joe does a great job of keeping Maya light before she heads out to the first tee. And I think a coach, you know, coaches are kind of looked at as like the people that can fix my swing, but they can also get you in the right frame of mind before you go out and play it too.
Absolutely, and just goes to show that these are going to be the scoring clubs too. All weekend with the one that they're working on. Number 1 player in the world, Nelly Korda, doing the same thing, going from driver to a shorter club. Looks like she almost has maybe a mid-iron or maybe a short iron in her hand, but she's going to be hitting a lot of these today. So it's good that that's the last thing she's working on, or might be the last thing she's working on. We're not too sure, but like Ryan was saying, her and Joe's dynamic is absolutely incredible, and it's one that we hope that all of you at home can have with your PGA coach. We're here to help you. We're here to help you with your golf swing, but we're also here to make sure you are in the right headspace before heading out to, it could be a member guest, it could be a drive, chip, and putt, but it also could be a major championship like Maya Stark here is doing with Joe.
Yeah, and, you know, I think maybe they're working on, you know, thinking about, okay, now I'm in the middle of the fairway on the first hole, and I'm going to hit a nice flighted shot, right? And so you'll see here she might do a little bit of an abbreviated follow through. Doesn't go all the way around the back of her neck to a full finish, but just kind of trying to cut it off at 3/4 with their hands, and that kind of helps the ball come out a little bit lower, and it's easier to avoid the ball getting caught up in the wind and spinning a little bit too much when you can see. They're talking about kind of a little bit of the flighted shot. So what I like about her stance, though, she's very centered over the ball. There's not a lot, she's not like very far behind it, and you can see kind of Joe talking about, like, you need to stay centered, right? If you start kind of wavering right or left, that's when the ball's going to start floating up too high. So for those at home thinking about, like, how do I hit those wind cheater shots, this is a great person to watch because she's super balanced over the ball, and then she kind of cuts off the finish with an abbreviated follow through. So those are two things that you can use to kind of hit shots into the wind.
Yeah, absolutely. She's very stable over the ball. And a couple other tips that you can use for when you're doing these wind shots out there, trying to hit a low shot into the wind. Maybe put the ball a little bit further back in your stance, have a little bit more weight loaded onto that front foot to avoid that movement that Ryan was talking about, and to stay a little bit more stable over the ball. With that abbreviated finish too, it's going to help flight that ball a little bit lower. So just a couple of those little tips there that can help as you're trying to hit these shots that I'm sure we're going to see a lot of this weekend with the wind. And as Maya steps away, we're going to go over a question real quick. How do you hit crisp irons? I'm hitting them thin. What am I doing wrong? We see it a lot, obviously. You hear the term thin to win. I'm never one to say you absolutely have to hit hit a divot. But if you're trying to compress the ball a little bit more, we have to think about, okay, what is hitting it thin? And it's that club head hitting the center of the ball or the top of the ball rather than getting under it. And so what I always like to have my students visualize is think about that club head as a plane that is landing, okay? And a plane has to land before it takes off again. If your plane is just bouncing off the ground or not even landing before it takes off, you're going to hit that thin contact. So think about that club head. It has to hit the ball and then to continue to land on the ground before it takes off again. So we're driving that club head, or we're driving that plane into the ground before it takes off for our finish. We're not trying to just bounce the club off the ground or already have the club take off to the sky before it even gets to the ground. That's how we're getting those thin shots there. And one thing to do with your body too is just making sure you're keeping that spine angle at impact rather than standing up. We see a lot of people, a lot of amateurs stand up at impact thinking, okay, I'm helping the ball in the air. No, you're not. I wish you were, but you're not. So I always say club goes low at impact will help the ball go high. Okay, if the club goes high at impact and you hit the center of the ball is going to go very low. So keeping that in mind, keeping that plane analogy in mind, that club head is your airplane. That airplane, if it doesn't land those passengers, that golf ball is just not going to make it. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, I'll just add one little thing is I always try to, when someone says, well, I'm thinning it a lot, well, that means you're kind of coming up out of your swing a little bit and coming up out of your posture and out of your spine angle, right? So when you're thinking about how do I minimize those thin shots or just misses in general, think about, you just saw Maya start, right? She's very centered over the ball and turns back into her stance and then turns out of it coming down through, right? So think about turning around versus up and down, right? Like when people get into trouble, they kind of jump out of their stance or they go too low and they might hit a little bit of a fat shot. But if you kind of turn around your body more so and then come back down and kind of cover your chest over the ball, that's how you're going to be able to hit that downward strike that Abby's talking about. And like she said, going down goes up, right? So making sure that you're focused on making a good around your body turn and then also covering the chest with your ball will help you hit those crisp irons.
We have another fan question here. How do you balance athleticism and technicality in the golf swing? Which is a great question. I think it's super easy for players to lose their athleticism because they're too focused on technique. So the best piece of advice I can give you, first of all, is we always want you to swing your swing. We always want you to use your athleticism and do what feels best for you, and then get your PGA coach to work on your technique to tweak that. We're going to work around your golf swing. We're not going to try to make your golf swing into just Nelly Korda's or just, like I mentioned yesterday, an Adam Scott swing. We're going to have you use your athleticism, use your feel to make your foundation in the base of your golf swing, and we will bring in a couple pieces of technique around there. What I always tell my students after like an hour-long lesson, we're grinding on the range, working on their swing, working on their technique. I always tell them one swing thought maximum on the golf course. You go on the driving range to play golf swing. You go on the golf course to play golf. So you have to make sure, okay, I'm on the golf course, I'm not trying to play golf swing, I'm trying to get the ball into the hole. So one swing thought maximum will really help you not only keep your body more in tune with your athleticism, but your mind. If you're overthinking your golf swing too much in a round of golf, your brain gets tired by about hole 12. And you need that brain power to finish your round of golf, because if your brain is tired, it's going to sneak into your golf swing. You're going to start kind of losing it a little bit. You got to keep your brain sharp the entire time. That's why I say maximum one swing thought. Whatever the best takeaway they got from that lesson, I want them to take onto the golf course as well, where we play golf and not golf swing. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, no, I think, the range out here is a great display of the balance of athleticism and technique, right? Like, all these players have great athleticism, but they also have great technique. So I think it's important, the technique is out on the driving range, right? And the athleticism can be built like in the gym or with a trainer, right? And fitness has become a big part of playing better golf. So we saw Lydia Ko yesterday going through this very detailed warm-up routine, right? And she's trying to get ready on the athleticism side of things, and then comes into hitting some balls on the technique side of things, right? So I think it's important to have that balance, and I think you can do a lot more. There's a lot of great resources out there to up your fitness a little bit and up your athleticism, but also work on your technique too.
So we got a next question here, a next fan question. I hit a lot of iron shots off the toe. What can I do to fix this? What are some good drills I can use to fix this? First thing, I'm definitely going to have you go to your PGA coach, because there could be a lot of different things that can cause the shot off the toe. It could be something as easy as setup. I can't tell you how many times I've seen students be like, why am I hitting it so toe-y? And they're setting it off directly off the toe. If you're looking down at something repetitively, it's going to look normal to you. I can't tell you how many times I've moved that ball more to the center of the club face for that student, and they're like, whoa, this looks way off the heel, or this doesn't look even close to the center of the club face. And then I take a picture of it from above, and they're like, oh, okay, now I see what you're talking about. So keeping things simple first, make sure your setup is good, maybe have somebody take eyes on it, go to your PGA coach. But Ryan, do you have any specific drills that can help with hitting it off the toe and avoiding that?
Yeah, I think, one of and you might think like, well, how could I possibly do this? But one of the things that I do if I'm trying to figure out where I'm hitting the ball off of the club face is I put 2 tees down or 2 alignment sticks down on either side of the ball, like kind of a little bit further apart, but it's basically like a gateway around the golf ball. And that will help you focus on hitting it more in the center, because the 2 alignment sticks or the 2 tees, if you hit those, that means you're hitting it out on the toe, right? Or you're hitting it on the heel. So when I'm practicing, I tend to put those 2 alignment sticks down and try to just use those 2, like that gateway as like, this is where I'm going with my takeaway. And then I come back down and I'm going right in between the gates, right? And so if you're hitting a lot of shots off of the toe, throw a few alignment sticks down. You don't have to have them very tight to the golf ball, because that might give you some anxiety, but put them out maybe half a yard on either side of the golf ball, and just start to get them closer and closer as you get more comfortable. And I guarantee you start hitting more better shots, not so much on the toe.
And I don't know about you, Ryan, but a lot of times I see a lot of toe contact when people get vertical at impact as well. We talked about how that can cause a thin shot. But if you think about it, if you're getting taller, you're taking that club face away from the ball, so it's going to lean more towards the toe. So a lot of times it can be you're standing up at impact. That's the closest thing to the ball is that toe of the club. So maybe working on that spine angle, keeping that spine angle over the ball a little bit better as you rotate through rather than standing up. I always recommend starting with some half swings and feeling like you're compressing the ball first and feeling that spine stay over the ball. Rather than standing up. Like I said, that toe is going to be the first thing to hit the ball if you're standing up. But this just goes to show, too, if we watch these players here, I mean, obviously there's quite a few players out here on the driving range, but you're going to see a lot of players on the putting green right now. You're going to see a lot of players chipping, putting, hitting sand shots, because they know that's where the scoring is going to happen this week. Off the tee, yes, it's a long golf course, but it's pretty open for them. I think the main thing that they're probably going to work on, and where a lot of shots are lost right now, is on the putting green.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the leader is someone who's been putting and having a great short game this week. So Gino Thitikul, right? So there will probably be a lot of shots, like Abby was saying, gained or lost out and around on the greens and around them. So it's important to make sure that you have that short game dialed in as well before you go out and play. So hitting a few putts, a few chips, a few bunker shots, that's always important too. And it's still, I will say, you know, as we're kind of getting through our session here, it's still pretty windy out here. So I would anticipate that we'll see more and more players out here hitting those flighted shots we saw Maya and Nelly trying too.
All right, and now next into our next question. So we're at the weekend now of this major championship, and the question is, does their preparation change at all now that it is the weekend, now that they have made the cut? And I would say, you know, it really depends on the player. You've heard, I mean, one of the more notable interviews with a player about this, you know, Ricky Fowler. I don't know if you know the one that I'm referencing. He was asked, does he change anything when preparing for a major or non-major, and he said no. So it really depends on the player. I would say overall, I think you kind of have to. I think your first goal when you get there obviously is to make the cut. Okay, well now I have made the cut. What is my new goal now? Now it's to get into contention. So maybe these players, you know, they call Saturday moving day for a reason. It's time to get a little bit more aggressive. Maybe go for those pins today. Those pins have been put in some very difficult spots for these girls so far. And I think it's important to see, okay, now they're kind of a little bit more used to the conditions. They're a little bit more used to the wind. Are they going to take advantage of that experience and use that on the golf course and get a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more pin seeking? So I think that's probably the main thing you're going to see as a difference for their preparation. I think they're going to be a little bit less on the safe side, just trying to get to the weekend. Okay, now they're here. Now they want to chase that lead. Now they want to get after it and try to shoot a lower round than they have maybe in the past. But what about you? What do you think they've changed their preparation?
Yeah. I think, and as the week has gone on, the wind has gotten a lot stronger too, right? So I think, you know, whatever they were doing to prepare in the early week, the wind addition has probably added to that preparation, right? Like, so you kind of, I think, you know, they probably break up each day, and that's how they prepare. You know, come in, get settled in on the first day, work on some few things with my coach, go see the course on the second day. But the preparation for them probably doesn't change too much. But I think, you know, when it's a major, there's actually a little bit more pressure on them, right? So they're probably working on more, how do I handle more pressure, right? It's more mental stuff, it's more visualization, it's more like you saw Maya with Joe and Nelly with her caddy and her group, kind of laughing, keeping it light, right? So that's where I could see a little bit of the different type of preparation, is maybe as a group or as a player, I'm going to try to work on more of the mental side of things, right? And make sure that before I go out on the golf course, I'm in a good headspace, because when it's major championship conditions, it's really easy to kind of get lost in the shuffle, right? And so having a good mental game and having that strong head on your shoulders is important before you go tee off.
And as more players are coming to the driving range, just take a look, take in the sights and sounds, and watch these players practice and warm up as they get ready for the third round of the KPMG Women's PGA Championship.
Okay, go ahead.
Not know they were going to do that. There's room for it. Well, that's a Fazio rule where they want it all goes now is that you cannot build a house within 70 yards of the course. Maybe he doesn't want house. Maybe that $6 million house is getting built. Okay. That'll work. He charges $1 million all the time.
All right, welcome back to our live coverage of the driving range here at the KPMG Women's PGA Championship. We can see a handful of golfers warming up before the third round of this major. But one thing we have to mention is the absolute manpower that something like this championship takes to make it happen. You know, all of the volunteers that are doing all the hard work, even something as simple as a driving range, getting the golf balls, getting the name signs, making sure they're there for any questions or any help needed, necessary. You can see them out there by the tent, ready for players to show up to get their golf balls. They're always here to help. They keep the range looking awesome. Now, obviously, you can see these flags are blowing pretty hard right now. The wind just continues to pick up. And I mentioned to Ryan earlier, I think it's gotten windier every day. So it's just progressively getting harder for these golfers. But I think it'll be super fun to watch, and it'll be super fun to watch them warm up.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, as we think about what the players will face on the course, is the fairways and the greens are, with this wind, are going to be crispy, right? Maybe not, the course is in fantastic condition, but as the week goes along, the golf course tends to get firmer and faster on the fairways and the greens, right? So you might start seeing more irons versus hybrids, and trying to kind of use more of the ground versus trying to fly the ball too high up in the air. So I'm excited to see, kind of as we go along over the next little bit, how players have changed their game plans coming into today, knowing that it's going to be another, you know, breezy day, but actually a little bit more, but also combining that with how fast and firm the conditions will probably be out on the golf course too.
Yeah, and as you guys are tuning in now, we're going to have some of our leaders showing up soon. I mean, we're going to have, obviously, a fan favorite, Lexi Thompson, in a swing everybody likes to watch. We're going to have all of them. Minji is going to be here soon. Some great golfers, some Gino Thitikul, who's the leader. Thitikul,
yep.
Sorry.
That's
so sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
But obviously these are the players to watch this weekend. They're going to be fun to watch in the driving range as well. If you're a golf nerd like me, I love watching this stuff before the round, especially of a major championship, seeing their routine, seeing what clubs are going through in the bag, seeing what they think they're going to have to need out there on the golf course today. So it'll be really cool to get some of the leaders out here, and it'll be awesome to watch their routines as well.
Yeah, definitely. And as we kind of get into more of the late morning, early afternoon part of the day on moving day, it'll be interesting to see if these conditions kind of persist or if they get stronger. And I think, you know, it'll be really good television, or for those that are kind of out here watching, great entertainment. So really excited to see this moving day.
Yeah, and we just got our next fan question. I only have 15 minutes to warm up before a round. What do I do? My first response is give yourself more time to warm up and get ready. I mean, my goodness, we got to work on your time management. But if you only have 15 minutes, if something happened, you only have 15 minutes to warm up. What I recommend, definitely warm up your body first. Prioritize stretching and body movements before you swing a club. As much as I'm sure you would like to just run to the driving range and hit 15 drivers and hope for the best, stretch first, warm up your body. And then if you have time, do some wedge shots, maybe some full iron swings, maybe throw in one driver. But you also have to give yourself time on the putting green too. You want to see the speed of the putting green. So really, if you only have 15 minutes, I'd say stretch, warm up your body, then roll some putts. And maybe some chips, but 15 minutes really is not a lot of time. We're going to have to work on your time management skills.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a very common thing, I think, among amateur golfers, right, is you're just kind of running late and you only have a little bit of time to warm up. So, as Abby said, I think, you know, you probably can't squeeze in too much of a range session with 15 minutes because you got to get to the first tee. So what I would do is I would head right to the putting green. You know, if you can hit a couple chips, a couple putts, get that short game kind of warmed up, and then take a few clubs out of your bag and just make some weighted swing stretches, right? You know, get that tempo dialed in a little bit, and then go and stretch out your lower body, do a couple, you know, leg swings and a couple arm circles. You're trying to warm up your body as quick as possible, so getting those rotational muscles you'd use for that rotational part of your swing is super important. So short game, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of tempo stuff, and as Abby said, get there a little bit earlier too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we're getting ready for the leaders to take on the driving range here shortly, we have another question. I'm struggling with the slice off the tee. What can I do? I've never heard that question before. I've never heard of a slice. I don't even know. I'm just kidding, obviously. Slices are very common. They're arguably the #1 miss in golf, and especially in amateur golf. And like I said, my first response is definitely going to be find your PGA coach, because there can be a lot of reasons why you're slicing the ball. But if we think about the #1 reason, okay, my club face is open at impact. There's going to be a couple different ways to work on this. One common thing that I see, and it might not be your problem, but one common thing that I see with slices is people trying to hold that club face square at impact and not release the club. Well, I'm going to, spoiler alert, the club face is not going to be square at impact in the first place. It's going to be wide open. So if you feel like, okay, I'm just holding it square on the way through, I'm going to do a chicken wing finish, I'm going to do a really sawed-off finish because I feel like that's the only way I can hit it straight. No, we're going in the wrong direction here. You're going to want to release the club at impact. And by that, I mean turning your wrists over, turning that club face over. And I like to think of it as a release of tension, too, because I don't know if you've ever heard of golfer's elbow, but this is a main cause of golfer's elbow, is students not releasing the club. So just making sure, okay, I have that feeling down, and if you're like, I don't even know what that feel is of releasing the club, I always have students set up the club like you're about to swing a baseball bat. So it's on your shoulders, and swing it like a baseball bat. 10 times out of 10, you'll see that release. You'll see that those forearms turn over, your wrist turn over when you swing that baseball bat. And so I say, okay, you're going to take that feel into your golf swing now, and that will help you square up that club face a little bit better. But like I said, that's just one of the many possibilities of fixing a slice. What about you, Ryan? What do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times a slice starts with the fundamentals being off a little bit, right? A lot of people have their feet pointed to the left, their shoulders pointed to the right, and that causes a little bit of a in to out, or out to in motion, where you're kind of casting and going over the top, and then that club face, like Abby said, is open, and then it goes right and goes further right? So we saw Nelly Korda earlier using an alignment aid. Put an alignment stick down, get your feet lined up, and then put a club across your shoulders, and then line up like you're going to hit your shot, and make sure that your shoulders and your feet are aligned in the same direction, right? And start with that. Like, if you can get that dialed in, you will see less slices guaranteed, right? Because a lot of the times things get off kilter from the fundamentals. People have a bad posture, their stance is a little too wide or too narrow, or they're aligned incorrectly, right? And so if you can get that alignment down, making sure their shoulders and feet match up, I think the slice will go away.
All right, now we're taking a live look at Austin Kim. She's in the third to last group here for today, playing some of the best golf of her life. She's 1 under par. She's playing incredibly. And what do you know? She's starting off with those sawed-off wedges.
Yep. Yeah, no, and she has the launch monitor out there, trying to dial in. You know, you see that a lot with tour players, right? Is you think a launch monitor, I want to see how far I'm carrying my longer clubs, but these players actually are so good that they're trying to see how far they're carrying their wedges too, right? And where are the distances that my wedges are going, right? So, you know, if you can have that sort of technology to use, you know, a lot of the times you can get them through an app on your phone, but or Top Tracer Range has this technology at a lot of ranges where you can see, you know, how far your balls are going out on the range. So if you have one of those, I would highly recommend using it. But yeah, you know, distance control is going to be super important today, and it's super important whenever you play too, because that's how you make more birdies or make more pars, is you're getting your shorter clubs closer to the pin, right? And you see here she's kind of working on a little bit of a turn through. I love this. This is like coaching awesomeness right here, is putting a club across your body and then trying to feel that full turn, and then coming through very slowly and exaggerating the feel, right? And you know, Abby and I know a ton of PGA coaches, and one of the things that they always try to do with their students is exaggerating the moves, right, and exaggerating what it feels like to be in the right position. So you just saw that with Austin, and it's great to kind of see that here on the range before she goes and tees off.
Absolutely. I tell a lot of students, over-exaggerate what I'm telling you to do, because usually when you over-exaggerate, it looks normal to me. So that's definitely what we're seeing here as well. Obviously, she's got the alignment stick down. We love the alignment stick. Make sure you're always aiming at something on the driving range. I can't harp on that enough. I will say this every day. The number one thing that I hear when I ask somebody, oh, what are you aiming at the driving range? The number one response is, oh, down the center, oh, the middle. Okay, that is not a target, okay, and you think you're aiming down the middle and you're nowhere near close. So make sure you get that alignment stick down. These are the best players in the world, and they will always put that alignment stick down. So if you think you're too good for an alignment stick, you got another thing coming. We're gonna get you dialed in with your alignment and how you set up to the ball. And you can see she's being very diligent right now with her grip too, her setup. PGA, posture, grip, alignment. And so even Austin Kim, who's in contention at a major championship, is making sure that her fundamentals are all good as she prepares for the third round in contention.
Yeah, no, and that grip check we see that a lot with tour players, right? Like Scotty Scheffler, at the PGA Championship had a molded grip that he uses before he checks it every time, and then puts that away and then still does the check, right? And Austin's doing something similar where she's putting the club handle up and just saying, okay, this is my routine, right? I have my hand down on the shaft, I bring it up, put them together, and then get into my stance, right? And so this is something that I would love for a lot of amateur golfers at home to copy, having a routine. It doesn't need to be as detailed as Austin's or as grip focused as Austin's, but maybe it's you standing behind the golf ball and visualizing the shot, or maybe it's doing a couple waggles like we saw Nelly Korda doing earlier. But something just to kind of cut the tension a little bit, right, and make sure that you're confident over the ball and not like, oh my gosh, I have to hit this shot, I don't know what I'm doing. If you got a pre-shot routine, it makes it a lot easier to have some confidence over the ball.
Absolutely, and your PGA coach can help you with something as simple as a pre-shot routine. I can't tell you how many times I've done an on-course lesson and I ask, okay, how many practice swings do you like to do before you hit the shot? And they're like, 1 or 2. Like sometimes 3 if I'm really not doing. And I'm like, whoa, slow your roll. Let's get a little bit more consistent here. Let's make sure that we have something set in place. Stick to that routine every time, like Ryan said. And I will say, watching her swing, she has such a great arc in her swing. There's so much space. She has so much extension with her upper body as she takes that club back as well. You can see that her arms are really extended out, especially at the top of her backswing. And as you can see, Brian mentioned earlier, she's working on that exaggerated move with her upper body, which we love to see. And she's really sticking to that routine of checking her grip, checking her club face, and then hitting the shot. And we want to tell you too, practice swings are normal on the driving range. Practice swings are cool on the driving range. Make it cool. It's very normal. We don't want you to be pounding golf balls constantly when you're out there. Practice or rehearse what you're working on before you swing the club. It's really going to be beneficial to you in your practice session or in your warm-up session before you head out on the golf course.
Yeah, no doubt. And one other thing you saw a lot there is she's cleaning off her clubs. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people just go from shot to shot with dirty grooves.
Oh,
so make sure that you got your towel's a little bit wet on your golf bag and you're using a scrubber to get those grooves clean, because that can really impact how much spin you put on the ball and where your shots go too. So.
Absolutely, and she's setting up for her next few shots here. We can see her stand behind her position. She's probably picking out her next target. Like I said, it's very important to do. But she's really fun to watch. Her tempo's beautiful. Her golf swing obviously is beautiful. She has a very neutral grip too. We mentioned it earlier. The more you can see that logo face on, the stronger the grip is. And so she has it's a little bit strong, but more on the neutral side, which is what we like to see. And she makes sure that it is set every single time, which is awesome. We love to see that routine. But the wind just continues to pick up here. We've seen a sawed-off finish from her almost every shot as well. So just goes to show that they are taking this win seriously, as they should, because we're definitely feeling it right now on the driving range as well.
Yeah, and you may be wondering, she's standing a little bit more upright and the hands are a little bit closer over to her body over the ball, and that's okay. You have to kind of figure out what the right posture and stance is for you, right? Like depending on your height and your comfortability with your clubs. you got to make sure that like it feels right for you. So Austin's a little more upright, doesn't have her knees as flexed as maybe some of the other players do, but that's what feels comfortable for her, right? And so you can work with your PGA coach to kind of figure out what is, as Abby said, PGA, posture, grip, alignment, that also stance is part of that too. So, and making sure that it feels comfortable for you. So she's a little bit more upright, hands a little bit closer to her body, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's just what fits her best. So as soon as you kind of can get that dialed in, you'll be in good shape. And so as we kind of go, she's going to go through her bag here a little bit and warm up more. Going through those longer clubs and just making sure that she's in good shape before she heads out to Fields Ranch East. So the wind is still consistently strong. I will say that. Like we're standing over here on the corner of the range, keeping an eye on all these players. It's still 20 to 30 miles an hour, and we have some coverage, right? So Fields Ranch East is wide open. It's a huge space of land, and it's important for these players to make sure that they feel comfortable hitting those types of shots. And I think Austin's kind of working through the distances and making sure everything's dialed in before she goes out there. So.
Do golfers shorten up their warm-up routines based on weather? Is our next question here. I don't think so. I mean, depending on if it's like downpouring rain and you don't want to get your equipment too wet or anything like that, that's one instance where, you would probably shorten up your routine. You don't want to be more miserable than you already will be on the golf course when it's pouring out there. But on windy days like this, if anything, you might see a lengthened routine just to get used to the conditions out here. Wind, definitely, it's easier to practice with and really rehearse rather than a downpour. If it's raining, like I said, you don't want to get your gloves too wet. You don't want to get your grips too wet. So making sure that you're working on time to not only warm up, but make sure you have time to dry them off a little bit before you head on the golf course. But no, wind, I don't think that would change the length of your routine at all. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think actually maybe you would probably want to, if anything, you would want to maybe do a little bit less time because you want to save shots. You want to maybe dial in a few shots, but then you want to save those shots for the course, right? You don't need to like hammer balls out and go longer in the wind and try to figure out some sort of wind shot. Like you already know what to do. You've got the fundamentals. You got the coaching that you need to handle the wind. So it doesn't really change too much. Abby said, with rain, it might, which I definitely agree with, that would definitely shorten things a little bit. You don't want to be stuck out in the rain too long. But with wind, like this is just a whole nother added part of the competition, and they're ready to handle it. So.
Yeah, and as much fun as we're having watching Austin warm up, I do have to say I'm pretty darn excited to see our leaders start to roll up. We're going to get to see Lexi Thompson, Minji Lee, and Gino. They're going to warm up here shortly, and we're really excited to see what they're going to do, how they're going to prepare for this round, especially since they're in contention. It's not going to be easy to score low today. I know it's a moving day, but I think with these conditions, they just kind of, their game plan is probably just going to be stick with what they have, try not to lose any shots out there, just because, like I said, these conditions are not easy. The course is not easy, so I think for the leaders, they just have to try to remain where they are. And obviously, if they see somebody surge up the leaderboard, keep that in mind. But with today and with how this range session is going with this wind, I think the leaders, as they show up, it's going to be interesting to see what their routine is going to be and what their game plan is going to be.
Yeah, definitely. And, as we think about the leaders, Lexi Thompson, Minji Lee, Gino Thitikul, they're all on, striking distance. Gino obviously in the lead by a couple shots, but for Lexi and Minji and some others kind of down the board, they got to pounce, right? And so you might see them be a little bit more aggressive. Lexi's one of the longer players in the field, and I think it would be interesting to see how she attacks the course, and Gino as well, and Minji, all players that can definitely go low. So we'll see how they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, since I was lucky enough to follow Lexi's group the first two rounds, her driver right now is so good, and I think that's going to be such a huge advantage. She's really utilizing that lower ball flight right now too. So she's got a piercing draw, which already is going to go further, but especially in these conditions is such a huge advantage. So I hope we get to see some of those shots out here today when she comes to the driving range before her round. But I think with her, the steadiness of, Minji, if she's on the leaderboard, she's always one to watch. She is so steady. She's so good. I think it'll be really cool to see what their routine is going to be once they arrive. And if you have any questions about their game or what they're going to be working on, we're happy to help. I think it'll be super fun to watch these leaders get to the driving range. It's going to be a windy one for them, obviously, and I assume it's going to get only windier this afternoon. The course is going to dry up even more, so they're going to have some tough conditions out there. It'll be fun to see those players tested, that's for sure.
Yeah, and one thing to follow up on Lexi, or Abby mentioned about Lexi's ball flight and that piercing draw. You may be wondering, like, well, why does the draw go further than like my shot goes if I hit it left to right, or and that really is all ball flight and how the ball is spinning, right? A draw can kind of cut through the wind a little bit, especially given how the path goes off of the club. You're kind of coming in a little bit, and you're coming in from the inside and able to just kind of float the ball out to the right, and then it kind of takes the wind and is able to kind of tumble through it. You can do that with the left to right shot too, but Lexi's kind of got this big draw working where she can kind of cut through the wind right away off of impact, and then it just kind of tumbles with the spin, right to left spin over into the fairways. So something to keep an eye on today. If she can keep that draw going, I wouldn't be surprised to see her climb up the leaderboard.
Yeah, you kind of hope she does. I know she's taken a step back a little bit from the game of golf, but I feel like she's more present than ever. I feel like she's always in contention. She's happier on the golf course. I think it's cool to see that her taking a step back. She's not going anywhere, don't get us wrong, but seeing how much fun she's having on the golf course, following her the past few days, she's just such a light out there. She's always signing golf balls, gloves, flags, even in the middle of the round, going from green to tee. She's always taking the time with fans, which is just a part of the cool experiences you can have if you come see a KPMG Women's PGA Championship. Lexi Thompson's one of the more iconic players in the game of golf, and you can come watch her. You can come get your signed golf ball too, so just be sure, and it's going to be pretty cool to see her on the driving range as well. I love watching her swing. I love watching, obviously, Lexi's power off the ground.
Yep.
We've got another fan question coming up though. Don't forget that comment section is open. We got, my sister's new to golf, experiencing wrist pain. What should she do? Wrist pain is very common in golf. I've actually gone through it myself. I've had to play many tournaments with that KT tape wrapped around my wrist. A lot of it happens due to repetition, impact, and if she is hitting a lot of golf balls off of mats. Hitting off mats can definitely cause wrist injuries, so that's going to be my first question back to you. Is she hitting it off the mat a lot? Maybe a lot of simulator golf as she's getting new into the game. We kind of want to avoid that. I know it's a really cool atmosphere, what they're doing with simulator golf and casual golf indoors. It is awesome, don't get me wrong, but if she's not used to that much repetition, and then on top of that doing it on mats, it can most definitely cause some wrist injuries. And then two, making sure she's releasing the club. I made a comment about golfer's elbow earlier, but if she's trying to hold that club face, what she thinks is square at impact, that's going to add a lot of tension, and it's going to kind of shoot up into the wrist, and I really don't recommend that at all. So making sure she's releasing the club properly, one, and two, making sure she's not hitting off mats too much. What about you, Ryan? What do you see most commonly with wrist injuries in golf?
Yeah, I think, as far as the amateurs go, it's probably, not hitting a lot of like very crisp and clean shots. You might be hitting the turf a lot behind the ball, or kind of coming up out of it and trying to flip through with your wrists. And that's a lot of that, if you're hitting into the ground a lot and taking a lot of fat shots, that might be really hurting that lead wrist. So what I would recommend is try to focus on improving your contact a little bit and hit some half shots, right, with the wedge. With the wrist injury, you want to be super careful, right? You don't want to really get into too much trouble. So take some half shots, try to focus on making good contact, and then do some wrist stretches too. Roll your wrists around a little bit before you go out and play, and I think that'll help a lot.
Absolutely, and you see some of these golfers kind of waiting for golf balls or getting different bags of golf balls. They're all playing with their own golf ball, even when they're on their driving range. They get to select the golf ball that they use on the golf course as well. And let's talk about the importance of that. Let's talk about the importance of choosing your golf ball. Golf ball technology is absolutely incredible these days, and I think it's really important for, even if you're new to golf, to take advantage of that and find the golf ball that best suits you. Ryan, what would you say is the best route to take to find the golf ball that best suits you?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people just go to the store and grab,
the cheapest option.
The cheapest option, or the golf ball that they see their favorite tour player playing. And that's not necessarily like the best option, I would say. And this is, again, where your PGA coach can help you a little bit. You can identify your swing speed. You're able to see what your ball flight is and your shot shape, and then they can try to identify the golf ball that fits you, and then you go buy it versus just grabbing the cheapest one.
And now I'm excited to say we have Yulini No next. She just got to the driving range, getting ready to warm up. She is a fan favorite and definitely turning into an even bigger fan favorite this week. She played a lot of junior golf with the PGA. She's done everything. As PGA coaches, we are big fans of hers, and I have to say that she was in Lexi Thompson's group, and I was walking along with her, and she complimented me on my outfit. So I'm definitely excited to watch her. I'm rooting for her. I feel like we're best friends now already after that exchange. Just in the middle of the round, casually, she's a couple under, just compliments me on my outfit. I felt really special. So I'm really rooting for her. She's warming up with some little short wedges, which we can't stress enough is a great way to start your warm, a great way to start up your practice session. Got a launch monitor there as well. Alignment stick down, just standard good procedure here as she's getting ready to take on the third round of the KPMG Women's PGA Championship.
Yeah, definitely. And, Yulimi is one of these young stars. I think that's just, it's only a matter of time before she wins the major championship. I think she's, like you said, she's won a junior PGA championship. She's been on the junior Ryder Cup team. She's now won her first LPGA event. So, the next logical step for her is to compete and then win a major championship, right? And again, so here's someone competing for a major championship, right? That maybe one of the biggest days of their life. They are starting out with short clubs. They're not going banging driver and trying to hit as far as possible. They're getting that tempo down. They're trying to feel out their swing a little bit, right? And she's got another launch monitor. They're trying to dial in the distance, but it looks like she's just trying to see, just get those feels down, right? She's probably hitting it only 20, 30 yards to this first flag on the range, and just trying to kind of maybe a little bit of a rapid fire sort of thing, and trying to feel out like the speed and everything, and making sure her body's in a good position so that when she rises up through the bag, that same feeling is going through each club.
Absolutely. And don't forget, we are taking questions in the comments section below. We've gotten some great questions so far, so we appreciate everybody doing so. But if you have any questions about Yulimi, anything else you've seen so far about your own golf game, we are happy to help there. And Ryan, you did note this. She came up through the PGA Junior League, Junior Ryder Cup team. She's just like the PGA poster child almost. She's just, and now she's competing for a major championship after winning her first LPGA Tour event earlier this year. She's definitely going to be a fun one to watch. And I know you mentioned, she's one of the best in the world, and she's starting out with the short clubs. We want you all at home to learn from this. She's really working on tempo too. We've gotten a couple of questions about tempo the past few days and how to work on it. You're kind of looking at it. She's starting with shorter swings, just getting that pace back and through as she's going through the bag. Working on wedges to start and shorter swings definitely helps with tempo to get it going. And it looks like she's just kind of working on these, maybe those lower wedges as well as she gets prepared to head out for the third round. But I will say, watching her in person too, her ball flight is so high. She hits her driver so incredibly high. Now, downwind, that's great, but into the wind, you can tell that it wasn't the best. Sometimes it kind of just floated in the air for what felt like an hour. So I'm sure she's probably going to work on that a little bit as well. She has a great high ball flight, which is very beneficial in most cases. But out here with this wind, she definitely is going to want to flight it a little bit lower. But it's cool to see. She's taking her time with these wedges, getting warmed up and getting her body warmed up as well.
Yeah, and with her swing here, you might notice that she's got. Didn't hit that one.
We love the one-handed finish here. She's just like us.
Now, which is totally fine. So, with Yulimi, I think trying to compete for her first major championship, she's trying to dial in those wedges, and she's a lot like Nelly, and trying to go up the leaderboard a little bit, trying to make sure that she's putting herself in a good place on moving day so that she can compete for a major championship and be in one of those final groups tomorrow. So be curious to see how her warm-up routine goes. You mentioned she hits the ball kind of high, so I'm curious, is she going to start trying to, flight the ball a little bit, tee it a little lower, maybe try, but she also I've played 2 days with this now, and maybe I'm just going to stick to my game plan and see how it goes. So excited to see where Yelimi goes on the leaderboard today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was interesting to see earlier. Obviously, we saw players show up well longer than an hour before their tee time, and she's showing up shorter than an hour. She's got way less than an hour to get ready for her tee time here, and it just goes to show that yes, all their routines are different, but they are sticking to it. They are sticking to their normal routines. This is her normal routine. She was most like, chipping and putting first and then warming up to get to the driving range. So I think it's important to see that, it's okay. You don't have to be banging balls for an hour. Mm-hmm. As long as you get your body in the right spot, your body warmed up before your round, that's the most that we can ask for. Now, keeping in mind, she's still taking her time. She's still very patient with her warm-up routine. She's not trying to fly through her bag before she heads to the tee. She knows what she's doing. She's been here before. So it's cool to see how different all of these routines are and how the time they give themselves for different assets of their game. It's awesome. And it looks like she's already jumping into like a mid-iron. So she goes from a wedge to a mid-iron, maybe even a short iron. I can't quite tell from here.
Yeah.
Or it might still be a wedge.
Yeah. And again, another person out here on the range with an alignment stick. So this was a common thing that we saw at Quail Hollow for the PGA Championship, and now it's another common thing we're seeing at the KPMG Women's PGA Championship. So if players are using alignment sticks at the biggest events in golf, it's a great indication that maybe you should try one too if you're working on alignment, or just trying to kind of put something down to just get a check before you go off and tee off. So one thing I want to talk about though is Yelimi's grip. We've been talking about grip a lot. It's a little bit stronger, so that's going to require her to have a little bit more rotation through the ball. So you see her kind of working through that a little bit. She's kind of trying to almost take a little bit of a backswing, and then the first move down is that lower left side kind of clearing out, right? So I'm going to take it back a little bit, and the first move through is my left hip coming through. And if she doesn't do that, she might kind of get a little bit stuck. And that's a miss that some better players might have, is coming from the inside and getting a little stuck. So it's always important to lead that downswing. You come down and that left hip is clearing out, so you can come through and be square at impact.
Alrighty. We have our next question here, and it's one of our favorite questions. How valuable is an alignment stick? Now, I don't think you can put a price on alignment, honestly. I think it's priceless. If you don't want to throw another thing in your bag, like if you don't want to buy an alignment stick, we completely get it. You can use a club, but any sort of stick-like thing that can help you set up to the ball consistently and align yourself up properly. I always say you can only swing square if you set up square. So you want to set up square to your target, and then you're going to be able to swing your swing properly. If you're set up all cattywampus, you're going to swing cattywampus, okay? So just make sure an alignment stick or anything like that is definitely worth it. You're going to need it. All of these players practice with it for a reason. They don't do it for show. So making sure that you get one for yourself or just use a club, like I said, is extremely beneficial to your game. And I do have to note, Top Tracer is up. So you'll see a lot of players check on their numbers. They're constantly checking their numbers. They're checking their ball speed, their carry distance, especially out here with these windy conditions. It's important for them to see how far they're actually carrying the ball. But to answer your question, yes, please get an alignment stick.
Yeah, alignment is one of those fundamentals that is truly priceless, right? Like, you want to have all your fundamentals completely dialed in. If if you're not aligned to your target, and if you're not aligned to where you want the ball to go, it's going to be really hard to hit consistently good golf shots, right? And consistency is kind of a little bit of something that everyone's seeking. It's really hard to kind of capture that consistency, but alignment and being aligned well can really help you. So I would say it's maybe one of the most important things you can do before you actually hit the golf ball, because if you are not aligned well, that means you're going to have a hard time. Like, you have to kind of reroute the club in order to kind of make up for your misalignment, right? So alignment aids, you can get them at golf stores. You can even go to your local hardware store, and there's sticks that are similar to alignment aids there. Or you can use a golf club, right? You don't even have to go find an alignment stick. You can just put a golf club down and see where you're aligned on your feet. So alignment, I can't tell you how much I would emphasize that you need to work on it. So.
Yeah, and Yelimi tees off in just under half an hour, actually, but someone who tees off in just under an hour, Lexi Thompson, we're still waiting on her. She'll be here shortly. I'm so excited to watch her warm up. I didn't get to see too much of her warm up routine as I was with her on the golf course, so it'll be cool to see how she prepares for this. I mean, she's been doing this since she was 12 years old. She's been doing it for a while. And Lexi is on her way to the driving range now, so we will see her shortly, which is very exciting. A lot of people will start coming to the driving range to watch as well. I know I would. Crowds for Nelly were obviously massive as she was warming up, and now Lexi, she's got one of the more iconic swings in golf. The way she utilizes that ground. And you can see her smiling and waving to people. She loves interacting with the fans, even on the driving range. And it'll be cool to see how someone with so much power and athleticism warms up her body for this third round.
Yeah, no, this has definitely been something that, I talked about earlier, how as we go along during this live from the driving range, that we're going to get better and better names coming through. And this is one of the names we've been waiting for, is Lexi Thompson. And I just want to kind of preface before we watch her is that you'll notice her swing is very unique, right? We're going to see a lot of things that maybe your PGA coach tells you not to do with Lexi's swing, but the great part about Lexi's swing is that it's her own swing. So when we're watching the best players in the world, you might notice that they do something a little quirky, or it's something that maybe isn't fundamentally sound. That's okay, because it works for them. And Joe Hallett is her coach, and he was on the air the other day talking about how she has the Lexi leaning away out of the follow through, and so we might see that a little bit today, right? But that works for her. So, and as we see her kind of stretching and warming up here, she'll probably have this band on too for most of her warm up routine. We saw that the other day, and that's a good way for you to get that lower body warmed up, because that's the engine of your swing. That's where you get a lot of your power. So
yeah, we saw her warm up a little bit from another round, and she kept that band on while she was hitting balls as well. There's a lot of reasons why she could be utilizing this band. As you can see now, she's using it to warm up her body, warm up her lower body, because that's where she generates all of her power from in her golf swing. But when she swings with it, it's a great way for her to keep her lower body steady. She used it mostly for her short clubs when we saw her using it with her golf swing, and we assume it's just kind of to keep her a little bit more over the ball, to stop her lower body from moving too much. As you can see with her driver swing, and as you have seen with her driver swing, she's got a lot of moving pieces with her lower body. And she knows at her level, okay, I don't need those moving pieces when I have a wedge in my hand. So it's a good resistance band to help with that, to help warm up her lower body faster too. Swinging a club with that around her thighs is not easy, but she is a super athlete, so it is cool to see her stretching routine as well. Mm-hmm. She's in the gym always, all the time, and even, I'm sure she got a workout in this morning, and even after that she's still working on warming up her body as she gets to the driving range, putting some headphones in for some live music, or tuning into this coverage. Might be listening to us talk about her, so it's pretty cool. Warming up the wrists, as Ryan mentioned earlier, with that question, why is my sister getting wrist injuries? Well, is she warming up her wrist? That's a very good one there. Just applying pressure to her fingers and pushing her wrist forward is a really great way to warm it up as well. So she's getting started with some wedges here, which will be fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, as we watch her kind of go through, again, a very similar start to her warm-up routine that we saw with Yulini, we saw it with Nelly Korda, we saw it with Austin Kim. Wedges are the way that you should probably start your warm-up routine, because it's the easiest way to get in sync, right? So we'll see her, she's kind of just taking a nice rehearsed motion, hip height, back and forth, and that's probably what this first shot is going to be, right? And so she's going to have, her hands full today with the conditions, but it's important to get off to a good start. And, I really like her having this band around her legs. I think it helps her kind of feel a better turn, and for her, turn is super important, right? Because she has a strong grip, she has a lot of rotation, and you saw her doing those stretches earlier. Rotation is super important in golf because it allows you to match up at the right points in your swing, right? If you're rotating the wrong ways, it's really hard to kind of get square at impact and find crisp contact. So rotation is really important, and we'll see that a lot today on this warm-up from Lexi.
Absolutely, and as I mentioned earlier, she's taken a little step back from the game, a little bit more limited schedule, and her PGA coach, Joe Hallett, was on the featured group coverage with myself the other day, and he mentioned that she has said with this limited schedule, she's having more fun. She's able to play golf on her own account, but she's also practicing harder than ever. because she's practicing for tournaments that she really wants to play in and she really wants to compete in. Coming off almost winning last week and obviously in contention now, she's probably feeling pretty good, but she overall just feels lighter, happier, and her PGA coach has definitely noticed that as well, since she's kind of making her own schedule, playing in tournaments she really wants to play in, and it's cool to see that reflect in her golf game as she continues to stay in contention.
Yeah, and we heard, she's playing in tournaments that she wants to play in. She's competing, where she wants to compete. And I heard that something similar from Adam Scott last week, as he talked about, like, I'm at the point in my career where I want to play in the big events, or events that I think are important. And I think Lexi is probably on that path too, where in a tournament like the KPMG Women's PGA Championship or major championships or events that she's familiar with the venue, those are the places she feels the most comfortable and where she thinks she has a chance to win, right? So one of those places is obviously today. She's been in contention at the KPMG Women's PGA Championship a lot before, and I'm curious if she can kind of try to take the monkey off her back from a couple years ago at Congressional and see if she can really find a groove out on the course. And if she's hitting that draw like she was yesterday, I think she'll find it. So
absolutely. I mean, like I said, her driver is such an advantage here, especially with this wind and how she's able to flight it so much lower than the average player. And she did mention with her PGA coach Joe that something just clicked with her last week. They actually just changed something super minimal in her setup, and then she hit a driver on the range with him, and it was her perfect draw. And she was like, you know what, I'm good, I got it. So that just that one little quick fix with your PGA coach can make such a big difference, as it has for her so far this week. And this wind, I don't know if you can tell on screen here, but it is continuing to pick up even more. So she's going to have a very windy round of golf in front of her, but it's nothing she can't handle. She's able to spin the ball more than the average player as well. She can hold the ball on the green a lot better than most. Her impact position is very, very steep with her irons. Almost sometimes her club head gets a little bit stuck into the ground. It's so steep. So as painful as it looks sometimes, it's definitely advantageous out here to be able to hold the greens as well as she does. But she's just continuing to warm up with these wedges as this wind continues to warm up as well. Yeah,
I mean, this is going to be today, everybody. This is going to be like a battle of who can hang on as best as possible, right? Like, we're not going to see something super low today out on Fields Ranch East. I think it's going to be a battle of who can battle the wind the most, right? And I like Lexi in that position because she has a lot of experience, right? You look at someone maybe a little bit younger like a Gino who maybe hasn't been out on tour as much. Gino's got a great swing as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see her kind of around the lead or in the lead again at the end of the day. But Lexi's got that experience, and I feel like she's got, she's kind of playing with house money almost, right? Where she's had that, kind of limited schedule that allows her to be in the gym more, work on my swing more. Now I can come out here and I've got the experience in my back pocket, and I got Joe Hallett with me too. Combine all those things, and I think she's got a good shot to stay near the top of the leaderboard today. Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool to see, what we always hear is drive for show, putt for dough, and she is known for driving the golf ball, obviously, in a very a long way. It's cool to see how much time she's taking with these wedges and warming up as well. Being known for her driver, she's getting dialed with these wedges. She's gotten a lot better with her irons and her wedges, and it's cool to see that she is focusing on that. As you can see, her PGA coach, Joe Hallett, did just show up after we saw him with Maya Stark earlier. Already all smiles with Joe, probably dropping some dad jokes already, but just checking in with Lexi before she heads out for her third round here. They're not trying to find anything. Lexi's not trying to do any sort of swing change as she gets ready for the third round here. They're just fine-tuning, making sure she's sticking to the basics, making sure she's swinging her swing and getting ready. Joe was asked, with a swing like Lexi's, how do you handle that? There's a lot of things that we wouldn't normally teach that we see in Lexi's swing, but it works for her. So just making sure that he's fine-tuning what she already has rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, as some might say. That's exactly right, and I think just as Joe's kind of was keeping Maya Stark light, he's keeping Lexi light too. Maybe giving her a few song recommendations for the playlist. That'd be funny to see what Lexi's listening to right now. But Yeah, still warming up with the wedge. She's probably going to have a little bit of a longer warm-up routine, but still has that band around her legs, and I think it allows her to stretch back, right? If you think about, like, how do I rotate back and get some power, the most important thing is that you're always trying to make that full turn, right? And I think that band around the top of her legs helps her feel that stretch and stretch that rotation, so she gets a full turn and can maximize her power. So.
All right, our fan question here is, why does Lexi have that band on, and why does it help? So with someone like Lexi, obviously, we mentioned earlier, she utilizes a lot of her lower body with her big swings, with her driver, with her woods, and even with her irons. Since she's warming up with wedges, it's kind of keeping her lower body a little bit more stable, and taking that feel onto the golf course is very important for her. She wants to keep that lower body not moving as much as she would with a longer club. And two, it just warms up her lower body a little bit faster. Having that resistance band really helps keep her body warm, keep her lower body warm, because that lower body is going to be engaged all day with her round. She really gets a lot of power from the ground up, but as she has these shorter clubs, I think she's just trying to keep her lower body a little bit more still, a little bit more stable. We'll probably see that band come off with the longer clubs, but for right now, you'll see it on as she's just starting to warm up and get those shorter swings in.
Yeah, most definitely. And the wind is picked up another 10 to 15 miles an hour out here on the range, gusting probably closer to 30 to 40 at some point. So, it's going to be very windy out there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that abbreviated follow through. You're going to see a lot of that today out on the players. They're going to try to keep things low, try to keep things, not getting up too high in the wind. And Lexi's got a great ball flight for that with that draw. She can kind of work her way around the wind versus going up into it. And the thing with the draw, though, is that it's going to be, important for her to keep that under control, right? So I think that band that you see, it's allowing her to get that full turn, right? And if she makes that full turn and can rotate all the way back, then she's able to kind of come through from that in to out motion and hit that draw. I think if she doesn't do that and the band isn't there, it might be a little bit harder to do that. So.
Yeah, and you can really see that T-Mobile flag there just blowing. A couple times we've seen that flag stick almost at like a 90-degree angle. The wind is really starting to pick up. I'm not sure if you guys can tell at home, but it is the strongest we've felt all day. Definitely stronger than the earlier tee time, so it's a little bit of a disadvantage for these later groups. But as the wind continues to pick up, you'll definitely see a lot more of those irons and those flighted wedges like we talked about. And as you can see there, even with Lexi's swing, with that sawed-off finish, she's working on that low ball flight with those wedges, with that band still around her legs, keeping that lower body quiet as she moves through the golf bag. But it is very windy, and you might be wondering, okay, so what do I change with the wind? What do I do differently on the golf course when it's windy? If it's breezy, swing easy. That's one of my favorite tips. Don't try to swing harder just because you're dead into the wind. It's not going to do you any good. So we're going to maybe just club up as you see fit and try not to swing harder. It's easier said than done, obviously, but making sure that we're not putting in any extra effort just because we're into the wind. So that's definitely a major tip to keep in mind. If it's breezy, swing easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, Joe's probably just similar to what he did with Maya, is making sure Lexi's got those fundamentals down. And you can't really, tackle the wind unless those fundamentals are in a good spot. So you see, the wind is going to be like this consistent breeze gust all day. It's going to go a little bit higher at times and a little bit lower at times. It might go higher in your golf swing or right during the middle of your swing, right? So these are the conditions that are present today at Fields Ranch East. The players know it. They know that it's going to be difficult. So patience is super, super important when you're playing in breezy conditions, right? You can't let the wind get the best of you. It's like your arch enemy in high school, right? Like he or she's like, getting to you all the time. You can't let them get the best of you. You got to come out on top, right? So it's important to always remain focused on the fundamentals and playing your game. If you're thinking about how do I tackle the wind, maybe do a little bit of an abbreviated follow through. Maybe you choke down a little bit on the club, take an extra club and try to flight a little bit lower versus having a full swing and going up really high. So.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, her and her coach Joe, they're not here to change anything. They're just maybe doing some tweaking to get her prepared for this round. But yeah, they're not trying to change her golf swing. They're just working with what she has right now. And what she has is a lot of good things, coming off almost winning last week. But she still has that band in. She still has a wedge in hand. Just goes to show that girl can bomb drive, so she's going to have a lot of shorter clubs in her hand. Now with this wind, might change a couple of things on the golf course with her game plan, that's for sure, with holding greens and whatnot. But like we mentioned earlier, her spin rate is incredible. On top of that too, seeing how long she's taking on these wedges, it just goes to show, please do not go in the driving range and pound nothing but drivers, because it just goes to show that we hit drivers however many times around, and only once a hole. We're going to hit these clubs that she has in her hand a lot longer. So and it's cool to see her warm-up routine. Like I mentioned earlier, it's drive for show, putt for dough. She's known for her driver. You would think, oh, Lexi's going to pound drives on the range. No, she's going through her bag. She's going through her normal routine with her coach, Joe. But no, she's not trying to change anything. She's probably trying to get her mindset ready too. Being in contention at a major is still a huge deal to even a player like her who has done it countless times. So getting her mindset right, taking her time, being patient with her practice routine is a major priority for her right now. And that wind, we can't stress it enough, it is really going right now. She's working on that sawed-off finish still, but you could see, I don't know if you saw that divot pop up or the amount of dirt that popped up when she hit that shot. She is very, very steep at impact. And I did mention this earlier, I'll never tell somebody they absolutely have to have a divot, but she is one that really compresses the ball, really gets steep at impact. It's kind of rare to see somebody who's so steep at impact still be so good with their driver. Because with a driver, we don't hit down on it. The iron swing and the driver swing are two very different golf swings. And some people don't even realize that. I've said that in lessons. They're like, oh, I thought it was the same swing. No, it's not. We have two very different goals. With wedges and irons, we try to hit down on it so the ball goes up. With the driver, think about it. The driver is teed up. It's the only shot that we tee up, and we tee it up pretty high. So we try to hit up on it. It's a little bit more of a sweeping motion as well. So just keeping in mind that these are two very different swings, and she is able to accomplish some great things with both, which is awesome to see. And like I said, very rare to see such a steep impact with irons and yet be so good with driver.
Yeah, definitely. And she's going through a little bit of a longer warm-up, I would say, than maybe what we saw with Nelly Korda, and just trying to kind of dial in that impact zone, so to speak, like hip height to hip height. You see they're making a lot of those swings. And it's important to remember that that's about the most crucial part of your swing rate, is like where you're at impact. So now you see you're kind of doing a little bit of a longer backswing, but cutting off that follow through. So what she was working on earlier with the wedges is maintaining that square face at impact. Now she's bringing that to the longer clubs, right? So you're probably going to see a lot of that. She doesn't really always do like a full finish anyways. It's kind of part of her signature lean, is she's always kind of leaning out to the left and trying to kind of work the ball almost right to left with her hands. She's very strong, got a strong upper body, so that's easier for her to do. So you see her kind of like rotating her hands or to the left of her left shoulder. That's a good indication of a full release and a full rotation, right? Even though she's taking an abbreviated follow through, she's rotated all the way through the ball. And sometimes, you might think, well, I got to abbreviate my follow through. You get a little tripped up with that rotation. It's also important to remember to do that follow through abbreviated, but also get your lower body through as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see on the top tracer just how far these shots are going as well. She doesn't have a long club in her hand. She's still getting it out there. And you can also tell, too, she's not putting in a lot of effort. She's not swinging out of her shoes. She's not doing the Lexi airborne look. She's getting a really smooth tempo, really patient swing right now, and she's still getting it out there. It just goes to show, if you swing harder, that does not mean the ball will go further, and she is exhibit A with that. Her tempo is absolutely gorgeous, and it's cool to see her distances. Like I said, even with a shorter club in hand, she is getting it out there.
Yeah, definitely. And, as she works up through the bag, I think it's going to be fun to see how she starts using those longer clubs into the wind. Looks like she's got a little bit of a longer one right now. So, but still doing that abbreviated follow through, right? So it's important to, make sure that you're confident with every club through your bag before you go out and tee it up, making sure you hit a few shots with each club. You saw her hit a few shots with those wedges to get things down. And now she's kind of going through the same motion with some longer clubs, and then she's working her way all the way up through the driver, right? And eventually she'll pull that out, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, and again, you notice she's still got that band on around her legs, right? So once that band comes off, and it might come off when she gets into those longer clubs, she's going to feel like very stretchy, like almost like Gumby, where she can kind of stretch back and feel that like exaggerated move that resistance band's had around her legs. It's holding her back a little bit from that full stretch. So that's a great way to warm up, is having those resistance band around your legs. Maybe not for everybody, but if you're trying to kind of stretch and get a little bit more power and a little bit more turn, it could probably work pretty well for you.
Absolutely, and I have to note there is quite a substantial crowd
I was just gonna say
watching her on the driving range here. All eyes on Lexi, that's for sure. And one thing to also note is we are pretty far away from her right now, and yet she is the only one that I can actually hear the ball contact. That just goes to show how much power she has. I mean, there are players way closer to us than her, and I cannot hear it. But with her audio, it's so cool to hear her hit the ball. It's so different than many players on tour and any other sound I've heard. And she just had irons that she was hitting. Usually with driver, obviously you can hear, but those irons and her impact with the ground and the golf ball is just so different than everyone around her that we can hear it from this far away. It's pretty impressive and pretty cool. I love the sounds of golf, and so do those fans that are watching her as well.
No one said you had to, man. Stay on the camera.
Yeah, no, definitely. Lexi has always been one of my favorite swings to watch, and it's a completely different type of power swing than Nelly's. Nelly's is a little bit more on the ground and using the ground to her advantage, and I think Lexi has always had that same motion where she kind of like jumps up off of her toes, and while you might think like, well, I can't do that at home, right? Like, because how am I supposed to match up at impact? Like I was saying earlier, that's a move that works for her. But what's important to note on that move is that she clears out on her left side. You saw it right there, where her left hip is kind of coming out, and because of that, she's able to square up really nice at impact. Sometimes people, when they come through the ball, their lower body kind of stalls out, and they have to use their hands to kind of match up at impact. I don't want people to do that at home, because you lose all your power that you just stored up on that really good backswing, right? And so if you watch Lexi's swing here, you'll see that when she comes down through the ball, she's turning and rotating out of the way. Like she's almost like someone's like if she had a belt on, someone's pulling her belt like to the left. And if you can do that every time, it's a lot easier to naturally square up at impact with your hands versus having to use your hands to square up.
And as Lexi continues to go through her bag, we're actually going to go to our current leader, Gino, next. She is getting ready to warm up, getting ready to take on her third round, as she has a pretty substantial lead right now, a couple strokes, which is a lot here. Let me tell you, that course is not playing easy. But one thing to note as we leave Lexi and go to Gino is still how Lexi's going through the bag and how all of these players go through the bag. They start with those short clubs, they continue with the irons, they go to their hybrids and their woods, and then their driver. We see a lot as PGA coaches, people just go to the range and hit drivers. And a great tip for amateurs, if you want to have a consistent swing, we're not going to do the driver swing, okay? Like I mentioned earlier, the driver swing and the iron swing are very different, so making sure you're doing a lot of repetition with the clubs that actually are more of your scoring clubs out there. The driver obviously starts your hole, but what are your scoring clubs? It's not your driver, so just making sure that you're aware of that as well, and I'm sure Gino's going to be doing a great job of that as well. She's obviously, she sees a different course than a lot of these players are seeing right now. I mean, this girl has a good lead right now going into the third round, going into moving day, and it seems like she's not fazed by anything either. She's so steady. It's going to be super intimidating at a major championship with the lead. Personally, I've never done it, Ryan, so I cannot imagine, but I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on her right now as she heads into moving day with that lead. In terms of her game plan, I mean, why would you change a thing with what she has going on right now? She's under par, which a lot of players are not, obviously, and with that lead, I think she just needs to stick to her game plan. If she can continue to be under par or around par every round, she's going to be hoisting that trophy at the end with how well she's playing.
Right, yeah, and she's at 6 under par, and then her playing competitor today, Minjee Lee's at 3 under par, right? They both tee off at 12:25, so coming up here the next 45 minutes or so. But you might have noticed it next to Lexi, but Gino had an incredible warm-up. She had these long, stretchy bands next to her. At some point, you'll probably see it today on the television or on the broadcast, but long, stretchy bands next to her, trying to warm up and trying to get that feel down, that rotational feel. And, you know, it just goes to show that rotation is important for these players, so it should be important for you, right? And Gino's a longer hitter. She's got a lot of great strengths to her swing, a lot of really good turn, high hands, able to kind of get up to the top and then just rip through with her lower body, right? So if you're going to do that move, her swing yesterday, I saw, you know, a slow-mo swing of her on the KPMG Women's PGA Championship social, which is a great follow for those at home this week if you're looking to get, you know, some insight on some of these players in the competition. Great move, and then she cleared out that lower side, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of a Bryson DeChambeau move, right? Where if I have so much speed and power built up that the only way I can get out of my own way is to clear out that lower body, and make sure that I can get squared up back at impact with a lot of power. So.
Sorry to interrupt, Brian. I just have to say we are going back to Lexi because she has got driver out, and this is what we've all been waiting for. Obviously, Lexi Thompson and her driver are best friends, and that is kind of what she's known for. And I will say something notable that we did not really expect. She has that band still around her lower body, still around her thighs. So I think it just goes to show that she's staying consistent with this routine and with this band. It's extremely difficult to hit driver with this. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's extremely difficult to have such a wide base with that band around her thighs. Her ball speed just said was 155.
Wow.
That is pretty darn impressive. That is absolutely smashed. I mean, I can't wait to see what she does out on the golf course today. And that is with the band on that she has this ball speed. So she is a super athlete. Who says golfers aren't athletes? Look at Lexi Thompson. I mean, come on. This girl is awesome. So she is getting her driver dialed. It's cool to see her ball flight with her driver as well. We've mentioned this a couple times before. Her draw and her low draw are going to be very beneficial to her today. And we recently mentioned as well, her and her coach, Joe Hallett, they have gone through just a little bit of a tweak, and she found something because her driver has been incredible. She's recently coming off almost winning last week. So after being in contention last week, being in contention this week, I think she's on a good run right now.
Right, yeah. And, you know, a lot of the times PGA coaches recommend that you kind of have that back shoulder lower than that front shoulder, and that's in order for you to sweep up on the ball and kind of get some launch on it. And what I noticed right now with Lexi is she's teeing it a little bit lower, and she's more centered, right? She doesn't have that right shoulder too much lower than her left. It's more of she's very almost like she's hitting like a long iron or a hybrid of sorts. And I think that's important for you if you're trying to flight the ball a little bit with your drivers. You don't need to have that right shoulder or that back shoulder down too much, because then it'll go up a little high and you're launching it too high. So I can see right now that she's kind of more centered over the ball, got it teed up a little bit lower, and just trying to kind of flight one down and have that kind of almost like a swooping draw where it starts up to the right and kind of tails back to the middle of the fairway. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I get into, I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with her group since I followed her with the featured group coverage. One visual I like for people at home, your shoulder plane and your shoulder plane at address is good insight to what your ball flight will do. So like you kind of mentioned earlier, if she had that back shoulder down a little bit more, her shoulder plane is pointing a little bit more up to the sky, that's going to be more of her ball flight. But since her shoulders are a little bit more level, she's going to have a lower ball flight. So that's one little quick tip for you at home. Your shoulder plane is going to tell you a lot. And so if you feel like your back shoulder is almost pointing upwards and your target side shoulder is pointing downwards, and you're like, why am I hitting it so low? Why am I topping the ball? It could be something as simple as that. I've definitely had those fixes with students in the past. But now going back to my experience with her being in the featured group coverage, I will say her driver ball flight was very different than the other two she was playing with. She was playing with Yuli Mino and Yuka Sasso, both of those two having a very high ball flight. and getting themselves into a little bit more trouble off the tee than Lexi. Now Lexi did have a couple of overcooked draws, don't get me wrong, but I will say her ball flight when it came to this wind, she would pound it way further past them. She was able to reach the green with her driver when others were not because of her lower ball flight, so she's definitely going to use it to her advantage as she heads into the third round. Now as Lexi walks off the green, we're obviously going to head back to Gino, our leader in the clubhouse right now, our leader getting ready for her third round. And her setup, we noticed quite a difference between her setup and others. For example, between her and Nelly. You'll notice her arms at address look very different than someone like a Nelly, someone like a Lexi. The inside of her elbows are pointing face on. So if I was face on with her, I could see the inside of her elbows. I could not see that with a Nelly or a Lexi. That just goes to show she's just a little bit more extended at address. Her arms are a little bit, I don't want to say tense at address, but definitely there's a little bit more tension in her address compared to other players. It's something that not all PGA coaches like to see, but it works for her. But it's usually a quick fix for a lot of players to kind of avoid that look. But with her grip and with her golf swing, it works. With her rotation, it really works as well, having that setup with the inside of her elbows pointing outward, pointing forward. So it's cool to see that what she's able to do with her golf swing. Again, she has a very athletic golf swing too on top of that. With her not so normal setup is what I would say with her arms, she's able to get that major extension in her backswing. Probably because of her setup, and she's able to keep that extension through her finish. What I see a lot from students is people scrunching their arms in either at impact or post impact. You want to feel like you're almost reaching for the target post impact. You don't want to feel like those arms are close to your body. So she's a really great visual of this, that her arms extend out to the target as she swings through, and then has her finish obviously all the way through as well. But feel like your arms are not scrunching in at impact or post impact. That happens a lot from either swinging over the top of it, or honestly, we see that a lot if you're scared to hit the ground. But don't be scared of hitting the ground. If you have the right posture at impact, you're going to be just fine. But feel like you're reaching for the target post impact and extending those arms through, just as you're seeing Gino do right now.
Yeah, for sure. And just a little break from the coaching, I wanted just to give our viewers a little bit of some stats around Gino and where she's been so far this week. So this is her second 36-hole lead or co-lead in a major. The last time that she did that was at the 2024 Chevron Championship, where she finished 12th. And she also leads the field in strokes gained putting through 2 rounds. And she's also first in the field in strokes gained through 36 holes with a plus 4.3. One thing that is going well for Gino too is that 8 of the last 9 KPMG Women's PGA winners have held the 36-hole lead or co-lead. So you think about all those things as we watch her warm up on the range here. A lot of things are going her way this week, and that tends to obviously be the case with the people in the lead. But when the stats are kind of behind you, that means your game is performing under the highest pressure, right? And so the first day was a great display of putting, right? And then yesterday was a little bit more of an all-around performance from the tee and around the green. So, I think she's in a good frame of mind at the moment, trying to look for that first major title. She's one of these rising stars, and I think her swing kind of lends herself to being in these moments. It's not very out of sorts. It's very repeatable. She has very high hands, and then she really kind of drives that lower body through in order to match back up at impact. And I think it'll probably hold up really nicely in this wind, I have to think. So really curious to see if she can hold on to the lead today in these windy conditions and not get blown away, hopefully. Yeah,
and I feel like I'm just noticing now that yesterday the wind direction, it was dead into them on the driving range here yesterday, and now it's going a little bit left to right, so I'm not sure how that'll affect their game plans on the golf course as well. But it's interesting to see that the wind direction has changed from yesterday to today, and it is obviously even stronger than yesterday to today. But I love this golf swing. I absolutely love this golf swing. I think it's very consistent, very stable. Stable is a common word you'll hear with us. Obviously, Lexi Thompson coming airborne, not the most stable golf swing, but she makes it work. But seeing her balance and seeing her finish, her weight transition, Something I have people at home always look for is their footwork and see all of their weight is off of their back foot when they hold their finish. Okay, so I want everyone at home to get in the habit of, one, not only transferring your weight to your front foot as you finish, but hold your finish. Analyzing your finish of your golf swing tells you a lot about your golf swing. So if you hold your finish and you're a little bit off balance, that tells you something went wrong. Or if you hold your finish and you're on your back foot, okay, that might tell you something went wrong as well. And another thing I tell them, oh my gosh, this wind is absolutely insane. I'm sorry to, oh my goodness, they're going to have so much fun out there today with this. I am not envious of them at all. But as you hold your finish too, I always like to say, okay, where is my belly button pointing? 9 times out of 10, your belly button is pointing to where your golf ball went. So I see a lot of people blocking the golf ball, and that's exactly where their belly button is pointing. Their belly button did not get all the way to the target. They did not utilize their lower body properly, so they blocked the golf ball. So I almost like to visualize a laser coming out of my belly button, and that is where I want the ball to go. So keeping that in mind too, as you hold your finish, where is your belly button pointing? We are getting 35-mile-an-hour gusts right now, so that's kind of probably why you sense me a little shocked. I almost got blown over myself, and I'm pretty stable myself, so it's getting pretty windy. Average of 20 miles per hour they're going to see today, but those gusts are going to come in quite consistent as well. So her swing is going to be great for today. I mean, obviously it's done her well so far, but we do have a fan question coming up next. Would even par be a good score today? I say it would be a great score today. I'd be so happy with even par if I was anybody going out and teeing off anytime soon or even earlier today. I know they're experiencing these winds as well. I think with this golf course, such an incredible golf course, Fields Ranch East here at PGA Frisco, home of the PGA of America, I think such a tough challenge for them, and it's their first time playing it as well, which makes it even more difficult. But I think even par with these windy conditions, with these course conditions and the course's setup, I think it's going to be a difficult challenge for them, but a cool challenge. I think for the people at home, it will be so fun to watch. They're going to have to hit shots that you don't normally see on the LPGA Tour, but I'm really excited. What do you think about even par, Ryan?
Yeah, I think even par is a good target score. I have to imagine Gino's thinking under par, though. I think she wants to kind of step on the gas and run away with it a little bit, so she's probably looking at another two under par, and I'm sure, with her distance, she can get to some of these par 5s pretty easily for birdie opportunities. But you take one scroll down the leaderboard, and there's not a lot of scores that are under par, right? And this was in earlier conditions. All these players were playing, Grace Kim is 4 under par, but she's already finished her round, right? So she was playing in a little bit easier conditions this morning. So if these players can go out and shoot around, a 2, a 1 under, an even par, the key today is not shooting 6 over par, right? Like, you don't want to totally shoot yourself out of it, right? So it's important to kind of keep it around even, and I think you got a chance tomorrow.
Speaking of, Ryan, you play this golf course. What was your experience like? What did you shoot out here? How did you find Fields Ranch East?
Yeah, I played in the Northern Texas PGA Professional Championship a couple years ago. It was my first competitive round in a while, and
we already got the excuses rolling. Let's go. Okay, continue.
Well, I'm about to preface it because I shot a smooth 92 in that first round, but a lesson that I think is important that I learned during that is that it was a 2-round tournament, right? So I shot 92, didn't hold my head down too much, and then came back the next day and shot a 78, right?
There you go.
So that's what I think is important today, is if you can get through today unscathed, tomorrow's a new day. And that's how I looked at my experience out here at Fields Ranch East. Is 92 is a horrible score, and really
not for everybody.
True, that's true. But for someone trying to compete for a spot in the National PGA Professional Championship, which I didn't probably have a chance in reality to go with, but I wanted to at least shoot a reasonable score. But the second round told me that you gotta have a little bit of resilience when you're out here on this course, right? The wind can get to you, the conditions will be firm and fast, so it's really important to make sure that you're focused on finding a rhythm, a good tempo, and making sure that you're making pars and not double bogeys and triple bogeys. So
yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Props to you for telling us what you shot. It's not easy to. It's not
I
easy
gotta
to
own
say.
it, right?
Yeah.
It's on the internet, so people can find it anywhere, and it's
Gotta own it, but just goes to show how hard this course is too. You're a good player. You have a great golf swing. A 92 is not normal for you, but that was your first time really playing this golf course, especially in a competitive environment. It's their first time playing this golf course in a competitive environment. It's not easy. I'm sure, like you said, the leader, she's definitely going to be trying to go for a couple under, as she has the first two rounds here today. But I think even par to 3 under. I know you mentioned somebody shot 4 under. All great scores. All would be great scores. But with this wind, truly, I would be impressed with any under par rounds, because those greens are going to dry out as well. It's going to be really hard to hold them. It's going to be, we're getting blown away right now, literally, with this wind and these gusts. I'm going to say they're lowballing us with a 35 mile per hour gust. This feels way stronger than that.
Yeah, and you know, going back to Gino's swing here a little bit, is she's now got the hybrid outer, a fairway wood of sorts. A lot of tour players are going to a 7 wood, so I wouldn't be surprised if she has one in the bag. But this looks more like a hybrid, and with a hybrid, it tends to go a little bit higher, right? So it wouldn't be surprising if she's trying to flight it down a little bit. I see it's kind of more in the middle of her stance. Another takeaway kind of check there, you can see. But she doesn't, no wasted motion with this swing either. It's very slow and rhythmic on the backswing, and then kind of a rip through on the follow through. And one of the things that I think about is that it's interesting with Gino is all of her grips are color coded, and that's how her dad knows what club she's hitting, right? So if she pulls out the club and her dad can see the color, and he knows what club she's hitting, which is really a kind of a cool father-daughter sort of thing. But yeah,
I'm sure my dad's kicking himself for not thinking about that.
Yeah, so you can also see too that she is choking down a little bit on the club. That's something that Abby and I have talked about can help you in the wind, is kind of choking down a little bit, gives you more added control. It kind of will chop the distance down a little bit, but in conditions like this, you need to find the fairway, and if the wind kind of kicks up, the balls can just go left and right so far, and it can just be, your misses can be exaggerated pretty crazily. So choking down a little bit on the club like Gino's doing will give her some added control. She hits it far enough where I'm not really concerned too much about her distance. Today it's more important about finding the fairway and playing from the short grass and having opportunities for pars and birdies. So
yeah, absolutely. And you can see on the top tracer too, she is flighting the ball a lot lower than normal. So she's getting ready for these windy conditions. Because as we mentioned, flighting it lower is definitely going to be helpful with what she's going to be playing with today. But I like what you said earlier. She has no wasted movement. She's very stable, compact. She doesn't add any additional flair to her swing. It's very simple. There's a lot of golf swings that have a lot of extra loop-de-loops and all that fun stuff that we see on a regular basis. And so it's cool to see. She's just straight back, straight through. She's very simple. A great golf swing to follow for simplicity's sake, but also her fundamentals are so great as well. Her finish, very stable. She doesn't go airborne. It's just a very compact golf swing that's going to help. That type of consistency is definitely going to help her here today as the wind continues to pick up. And I know her tee time is coming up in about 20 minutes or so. So I'm not too sure if she's already putt and chip to get ready to go, but she's getting closer to her tee time. Our leaders are getting closer to teeing off. Lexi's only about 10 minutes away right now. She tees off at 12:16. Obviously, we saw her warm up earlier with the resistance band the entire time, which burns my thighs just thinking about. Very impressive that she's able to do that. But just look how different their warm up routines are as well. We saw Lexi maybe have a wood out for a couple swings, a couple of drivers, and she's been on this wood for a little while trying to work on flighting the golf ball.
Yeah, definitely, and I think, as we watch more of Gino's swings here, I want everyone to watch her backswing on this next one, because it's really a good indication of how well loaded she is on her turn, and she's not swaying back to get power. She's actually turned so much that it almost looks like her weight is on her left side, but it's actually on her back right heel, but she's turning into her body, right? A lot of the times players will sway back and bring everything back and then kind of sway through and come all the way back through, right? She actually turns within herself, almost like she's in a barrel and trying not to knock the barrel over, and that's how she generates so much power, right? And then she has those high hands, and then all she needs to do is just clear out. Bam, that ball is going right down the middle and really far too. So
she's teeing it up now. Actually, she's getting ready to practice these shots for when she's on the course with those shorter par fours or those par fours where there's trouble off the tee with your driver.
Yep.
And even these flighted lower wood shots are going to be more beneficial than a normal driver, especially with these windy conditions. So it's cool to see that she's practicing with it teed up as well, right?
Yeah, and for those maybe coming out to follow the groups today at Fields Ranch East for the KPMG Women's PGA Championship, one of the best parts about good players or tour players playing in wind is the sound of impact. Because they're doing this flighted shot, it's like you know that it hit the center of the club face, right? So something to enjoy if you're coming out here today, or even if you're at home, watching. We can hear Gino from here, and we can hear how center and how crisp that is. But it's just a fun for us golf nerds, kind of fun to see that shot just kind of soar up into the sky versus the normal shots that they have, and just the sound of it too. It's being hit really crisp as she pulls out the driver here, and it's probably kind of towards the tail end of her warm up.
And just for comparison, we're going to see the top tracer for her here with her driver. Lexi's top ball speed was 157. So let's just see if we can compare these two and their numbers just to see how big of a difference they are. Obviously, they've both found major success on the LPGA Tour, but every golfer is different. And so let's take a look to see what this ball speed ends up being. I love that golf swing.
Yeah, that's pretty. Still trying to choke down a little bit too. That's
even with driver.
Yeah, that's something she does commonly. I think she's all about the control of the swing. You see that with a couple players, with Lydia Ko and Brooke Henderson too. So
yeah, very, very, very impressive.
Not teeing the ball down too much. Still kind of like we have that reference point of half ball you can see above the club face. So, but going behind it, looking at the shot, what am I doing here? Visualizing the shot. Looks like she's got her coach there kind of pinpointing things, making sure she's aligned well.
Yeah, 259 carry. She just stood there with a 16-degree launch angle. That's
impressive into this wind. The wind, for those at home, is coming off of the player's left pretty much directly across the range, right? Across and in, like from their left. So it's really difficult to kind of, you're like fighting against the wind a little bit out here on the range. So she's probably trying to figure out, like, when the wind's coming off of my left, like, what do I need to do, right? So, and we're not too far from the first tee, and just kind of thinking about the first tee, it's going to be directly into the wind, right? So this is a good reference point for her out on the range for that first tee shot as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we talk about launch angle and what the difference is, why do you think that that's important for players like her?
Yeah, she's probably looking at, when they practice, they have an ideal launch angle in mind, what they're trying to hit, what they're trying to reach. But for today, I don't know if launch angle is exactly something that she wants to be too high. I think she wants it to be maybe a little bit on her lower end of the spectrum for her. But launch angle, when it's not 30 or 40 mile an hour winds like we have here today, launch angle is super important for players, because you want to be sweeping up on the ball. You don't want to have a negative launch angle or a low degree launch angle. You want to be going up on the ball so you can launch it into the air, right? So we talked earlier about the shoulders and how you can kind of have your back shoulder lower than your front shoulder. That can help with launch angle. Teeing the ball a little bit higher, that can help with launch angle. Putting it a little bit forward in your stance, that can help as well too. So if you're struggling with getting the ball high up in the air, try those three things, and I think you'll find that your launch angle can be a little bit higher, and you might get a little bit more carry distance out of it too. So.
Absolutely. We will always want to hit up in the ball with the driver. There's a very different swing, driver and iron. I know I talked about that earlier, but if you're just now tuning in, your driver swing and your iron swing are not the same golf swing. So if you have a PGA coach, be sure to ask them questions about that and how to accomplish the right launch angle for you. But it looks like she's getting a little bit of advice. It looks like maybe it's her spine. It looks like whoever she's working with is just checking on her setup. Like we said, she's not trying to fix anything. If anything, she might just tweak a couple things here and there. She's going to play with what she has, and what she has right now is very successful, as she is leading by a significant amount so far. So It's going to be fun to watch her today and tomorrow take on Fields Ranch East as the conditions only get tougher for these golfers.
Yeah, that's right. And, you noticed there with her coach, she's just trying to kind of check her shoulders, and she's not doing too much of a centered shoulders, right? She's still got kind of that back shoulder a little lower than her front, And you know, I don't mind that really, because she hits it far enough to where the wind probably won't affect her ball too much, and she's choking down a little bit too, so she's got that added control. See that little takeaway motion there, just trying to make sure everything's in check. Yeah, and then a really nice turn. She really went after that one. I'd be curious to see what the numbers were there, but yeah, she seems like, you know, the first day she kind of had, the driver was a little bit all over the place. Second day she dialed it in, so I'm curious to see if what sort of tee game comes out of Gino today. But based on what we're seeing, looks pretty good. So.
Yeah, as long as she has that putter with her too.
Right, yeah, like that first day, making almost 200 feet worth of putts was, I mean, that is an insane stat. It's something that will stick with her forever if she ends up winning this championship, and probably, you know, how she'll probably credit that first round, and because she was off kind of a little bit wild off the tee, making sure that those putts were good. So.
Yeah, as she's getting ready to head out to her third round here, and we have to say, as we are getting on this driving range and really feeling the wind, it's obviously very strong. So shout out to all these golfers for enduring this today. Like I said, I do not envy you at all. But as our leader, Gino heads out to her third round after being in the lead after the first 2 rounds. I mean, she's playing absolutely incredible. I'm sure anybody would like to have a round like her she's had the past few days. But we've had an incredible time here getting to watch all of these golfers. We've had an incredible time getting able to watch all these golfers warm up for the third round of the KPMG Women's PGA Championship. We've seen some super unique swings like Lexi Thompson, and we've seen some super stable swings like Maya Stark. The variety of their warm-up routines, the variety of their practice routines as they get ready for this third round of a major championship has been awesome. We will continue this coverage tomorrow as well, but for now, I am Abby Parsons, PGA golf professional, and I've been super lucky to be with you today. And Ryan, thank you for all you've done as well.
Yeah, we're really excited to see how today goes, and hope everyone enjoys it at home.
And I hope you enjoy the win, because it's a lot right now.
It's going to be fun to watch.
It's going to be really fun to watch, that's for sure. But thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the coverage.